CP3, Robbie G, coming to you live Monday night, episode 225. We got some Capitals, we got some Nationals, we even got some boxing talk for you, and we got the Wizards roundtable with the Wizards fighting for playoff position. I can't wait to hear these guys talk about that in the second hour, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Robbie G, how you doing tonight in the man cave?
I'm doing great. It's been an exciting week for sports. Just right now, the Wizards are down 88 to 75, and an important game with playoff implications for seeding. Bradley Beal is out of this game with an injured hamstring, I believe. But we're on triple double watch for Westbrook. He's one away from setting the all-time record of 182 in triple doubles. Right now, he's tied at 181 with the great Oscar Robinson. Yeah, so it's a close game. He's very close to the triple double. He just needs a couple more rebounds, I believe. I think he already has it in assists and points. But we'll get into the Wizards talk, obviously, in the second hour. But if that triple double does happen live, we will bring that to you live because it is a pretty historic moment. Right now, we also are watching the Islanders and Boston play each other. It's 2-2 in that game. That game has some playoff implications because if the Islanders win and the Caps beat Boston tomorrow, the Caps would then play the Islanders. If Boston wins tonight or tomorrow, then we would play Boston, and the Islanders would go to Pittsburgh. So that's some of the big things in the news and notes I wanted to mention. But yeah, it's just been an exciting week for sports in the DC area. I know on Saturday we had a double overtime game. Actually, all three games because the Nats game also went to extra innings, and so that was an exciting day of sports. So we'll be covering that down from the Capitals' perspective and the Wizards' perspective later. I actually had Champ come on and do a post game with me for both of those games on Saturday. But yeah, just an exciting time. This is the last week of the regular season for both of these teams. And it's coming down to an opportunity to make the playoffs for both these teams. Well, the Caps are already in; they're locked into the 2 seed. But the Wizards may make the playoffs too. So it's an exciting week for us.
I see they're actually in ninth place, moved up one spot. I mean, they have a half game lead. And, it's interesting, we were having the Wall versus Westbrook debate. I know you guys were having an intense conversation about it. And looks like Westbrook, because I had questions about him helping the team get better and, take it to the next level and actually make the playoffs with the expanded field this year. And looks like they're going to make that happen. So I'm not going to say I doubted Westbrook. I'm going to say I had questions with the trade, but my questions have been answered.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, unfortunately, Wall got injured, and Westbrook is setting records for triple doubles. So it's hard to, even if you lose a draft pick. I mean, the PR from that alone is well worth it. I mean, the Wizards are more relevant now than I think we could have imagined a year ago. And as you were mentioning, they moved up a spot against Indiana, and Indiana, last I checked, was actually losing to Cleveland in a very close game. We really want to try to get the 8 seed though, because if we can push for that 8 seed, then you play in that 7-8 game, and the loser then plays the winner of the 9-10 game, and that's a big difference. Then if you lose the 9-10 game, you're out, right? So you want to not play in that 9-10 game if you can help it, because if you win that 7-8 game, Carol, you get the 7 seed. So you could go in as the 8 seed, move up to the 7 seed just by winning that game. So I mean that's a big opportunity. So you even though the 8 seed would be the road team in that game, you'd want to give yourself a shot there. They played pretty well on the road, so a lot can happen. So we'll break that down a little bit more in details if people want to understand that
You getting
in the
into the
NBA talk.
detail of him sitting there like, and really does that in the NBA playoffs now. See, I haven't watched it
Yeah, this is the first year, so brand new rules, all new thing, just for this year probably. And though they're evaluating it going forward, but it makes it kind of like a March Madness kind of entry playoff, like a kind of March Madness is the first four where they have like an early round to play in.
Yeah,
This is kind of on that style. It gets basically two games that will be interesting no matter what, and then a third game in addition. So they're guaranteed three exciting games in the NBA versus last year's format only guaranteed two. Yeah, smart on them for figuring that out. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, that's all I got for our news and notes segment. But we can go ahead and bring in. Well, do you have any news and notes before I bring in Anna?
nah, I really don't have any football news. We had the draft. I'm still working on coordinating with Dujane for us to do our breakdown of the players of the Washington football team side. And just stay tuned. When we get some news, we definitely will pass it along.
All right, one or two little notes that I was going to have. First of all, the Mantha Ray merchandise is off the shelves. I got a great picture with my son in it. We'll be posting that later this week. I want to give a shout out, sort of a sad one, but at the end of the recording of the last episode, TJ Oshi's dad had not yet passed away, and he had just afterwards. So I'm just putting only one jersey up today in my wall of jerseys here in honor of his dad. We'll talk about that hat trick game that he had in honor of his dad in a little bit. Also, down below me, if you're watching live on Twitch, I have my emotes. I was actually able to become an affiliate streamer on Twitch, and we have our first subscriptions and followers, and over 100 followers over there now. So if you want to subscribe to me, you can get these fancy Charizard graphics I made down below. If you're watching on Facebook, I'm sorry you don't see what I'm talking about. But anyway, I just wanted to give those two little shout outs. To them. And so rest in peace to Coach, obviously. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the upcoming game, but I wanted to put that in the news and notes as well. End of the third quarter, and the Wizards are not looking too good. So I'll let you know how that goes. But Anna, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Coming off of a great Mother's Day weekend and gorgeous weather, and my mom came out from California, so it's been good. It's been good, and it looks like you had both moms out, right? Mother-in-law and mom out.
Yes, I did.
Good.
I had both moms. I did it at my parents' house, which was excellent, and it was nice to celebrate with three moms, including a mom to be. So
Yeah.
that's always exciting.
And
And
Carol, Ed, were you grilling with family, or was
Yeah,
that for the podcast?
you already know I had the grill fired up for mom. We had a nice dinner, had the grandkids and the great grandkids over at my sister's house. Threw down some, some salmon, some burgers, some dogs, some
Good.
chicken. A little nice little variety on the grill.
Yeah. And the weather was great. I mean, we had a couple, like we were in Annapolis, we had a couple of random storms blow through, but overall it was nice to finally be able to see family, kind of like all get together. So that was a highlight. And then these games, I don't know, kind of 50-50. I
I
have
mean,
to let.
we won more than we lost. So
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
they went 3-1. The one game that they lost was kind of crucial, but we'll talk about it when it comes up. But all in
Yep.
all, it was a good week.
right, and also one going to overtime. I guess between both of those, we had to win that game in regulation, which honestly I thought Pittsburgh had won that night. It didn't matter, but it turned out someone tried to convince me of the math that if we won all of our games in regulation, we would have had the tiebreaker over them. So I don't know how. The math didn't add up to me, but I'm not going to get into
Right.
that.
I
But
think it was the
overall,
rank of wins or something because I'm not sure. You know more about breaking down. Yeah, I heard that also. If they were winning regulation, they could have secured number one spot. But I'm not sure how it would have made a difference for Pittsburgh having the head to head.
yeah, I didn't either, and it looked like they had more row too, or the same row. So maybe wins counts overall, wins in regulation. I had not seen that
I
stat,
will
but
I will tell
anyway,
you just like one little sidebar um comment that I thought was funny that you guys might appreciate. So like, it is my mom that got me into hockey team. Like 5 or 6 years ago, I got Tommy's autograph, and my daughter's like standing on the table between him and Brooks like, and it was this big thing. So she's like, oh, Tom, she's like, so when she arrived and came in, the first thing she says is, oh, I think he needs anger management. I think he's, and I said, oh my God, like, come on, like, come on, like, you're from Winnipeg, like, this is like, whatever. And she says, oh, he's, he just seems so angry and this and that. And I said, well, they're out to get him. Like, it's really not fair. And I said, and then you look at Sidney Crosby, and I said, and he's throwing some guys,
Keep saying about Sidney Crosby.
Yeah. And I said, Konechny, who I can't stand, but I hate Crosby more. So I'm like, he's bashing his head into the ice. And she just looks at me and she's like, I think Crosby's a bit of a wuss. And I said, you know what? I couldn't have summed it up better. Here you are, a lifelong fan of hockey, and I have other choice words, but I'll keep it PC because it's my mom. But yes, the worst.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of debate amongst my friends about it. Obviously, Brian's not gonna be speaking on it tonight. He wants to refrain. In fact, it's funny. As I mentioned, Brian connects as I say that, but he did say that he wasn't going to talk about the hockey and he was just going to talk baseball tonight, which I totally respect that opinion. But he obviously felt very differently about Tom Wilson than we do.
Of course.
We're definitely going to talk about it. If he's on the feet, he's going to end up chiming in.
He has to, yeah, especially when I have like the long pause for Tommy and the acknowledgement for Tommy. Just kidding, Brian.
So, but let's go back in time and talk about the very first Rangers game, and then we'll obviously get into that situation because then it relates to the second Rangers game. But let's do the scoring first, and then,
Sure.
We could get into some of the.
And we'll see if we're going to poke the bear a little bit. Maybe Brian will turn that mic on. Maybe we'll see. So we have. The first Rangers game, we have Nick Dowd opening the scoring at 14-12, assisted by Hagelin and Hathaway. And then 90 seconds later, Sheary scores his 13th, assisted by Raffle and Tom Wilson. And then the Rangers score to close out the first. Second period, Rangers score in the first 4.5 minutes by the same player whose name I can never say. And I know I'm not going to try to do it justice, Brian, but it starts with a Z. Anyways, and the Benajad. I'm just kidding. But again, phenomenal. 2 goals in 4.5 minutes. Come on. At 18:30, Hathaway scores his 6th, assisted by Dowd. And the third period was completely dominated by the Capitals. You have Sprong scoring his 12th, Backstrom with his 15th, and Tommy Wilson at 18:34 with his 13th, with a 6-3 win. So that was a good Rangers game. The next one was well, I can't even say it's good. No, I will say it's good. As a Caps fan, it was a great game.
Yeah. Well, I'll let Carol give his thoughts first.
It was a very interesting 2-game series with the Rangers. In this game, it was the Rangers player going to the net. Puck was held. He was still poking at it. His skate was in the belly of our goaltender. Tom Wilson saw that, and he decided to punch the guy a couple of times for doing it. Therefore, melee breaks out. A couple of fights break out, and then a superstar from the Rangers, the bread man, and he gets tossed like a rag doll, and Tom takes a couple of punches because it's the heat of battle. You're not worrying about if he's a superstar, if he's a fighter, or what. He engaged himself in that situation. You don't see back doing that. You don't see superstar. You know your role. You know your place. If you one of those guys want to get in there and throw some punches, then what comes. And I believe that play, that situation, and penalty that was taken earlier swung the momentum in the Capitals' favor. The Rangers were, I guess, upset about the whole situation. But I mean, I understand Brian's upset about it, but when you insert yourself into a fight, what happens happens. He
Yeah.
stayed on the side. He never got hurt. That's
Yeah.
just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. For I didn't see it live. I mean, we watched
Yeah.
it live. It existed during our show last week, and it didn't register as serious that we even needed to talk about it. Which a lot of people are like, "Why didn't you
Right.
talk about it?" My dad was watching. He was like, "You never even mentioned it." I was like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I saw him flip around. I saw a little scrum at first, and I get when you slow it down, it looks like he grabbed his hair and it gives him a
Right.
pile drive. I don't think that's actually what happened in the moment. I think any
Mhm.
fans about the slowdown is what happened. The speed up is not, and you could look at it from both right?
Yep.
And he was intentionally trying to bang
Yeah.
someone's head onto,
On
uh,
connect knee. Yeah.
yeah, and got nothing for it. Not even the $5,000 fine, I mind you.
I think he
None
got
of
2 minutes.
any of the sports affiliates whatsoever. No one said one thing about that, but everybody was
Exactly.
talking about Tom
The
Wilson in
joke.
the same situation, and that's hilarious to me. And then along with the Rangers being upset with him only being fined 5,000 and got not getting suspended as they felt he should because their star got hurt. Player
Yeah.
Association didn't see it as an issue. I don't see it as an issue.
No.
But it's interesting to hear like previous players what they were saying about it and different coaches around the league and different people. I mean, it's a very split decision. Some people want Tom Wilson out of the game and anything goes to that narrative. Some people are look at it as, it's a hockey play and a scrum in front of the net and unfortunately somebody got hurt. I mean, but there's such a huge range between those two.
Hmm.
But that's the
And
only want him out the league is that they can't stand playing against him because he's
Exactly.
forced to be. There's no other player that I can think of in this league that has his size, speed, and skill and can play on the power play and
Right.
in all facets of the game. I can't think of another player that has that
Well,
talent
and it
and that fear at the same time.
just a few days before that, he earned the A on his jersey. So it's like, it's not like he's, a complete goon. And it's like, give me a break. So he did. Panarin jumped on his back. What did you think was going to happen? You jumped on Tom Wilson's back in the heat of a scrum. Like, give me a break.
It
Like,
could have
I
been
am
a lot
Panarin, you
worse.
know better.
I want to just quick scoring update. The Wizards have gone on a crazy run, field goal drought, last 3 minutes for Atlanta, and in doing so, the Wizards cut it all the way to four. It's now 196 with just about under 8 minutes left to go in that fourth quarter. Just a really big
That's huge.
game and comeback. Greg Christian has asked a couple questions in chat on Facebook, saying wins is the first tiebreaker, regulation wins is second, and then row is third. So regulation wins is before row, which I did not know. So I appreciate that update.
Yeah.
And then do you track plus minus since March 20th? Char is minus 11 and Jensen is minus 6. I'm worried about that pairing going into the playoffs. It wasn't trending well for him. The eye test doesn't seem like they're doing that much worse, and we seem to be winning games at a pretty good clip. I mean, obviously, a minus 11 isn't a good number for Chara. But I also know I don't. I'm surprised he's played as many games as he had this season. I thought he would rest some games, especially down the stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Also,
so,
look at the injury that's been sustained. Some of the people that hadn't been in the lineup always been out of the lineup. So teams have been playing the Capitals a lot different, especially with
Yeah.
Holden out. So I mean, I'm not really too worried about that because you know what you're going to get from Charles. I agree with you, Robbie. I thought he would receive more rest during the season, being his age, but it doesn't look like it's really affecting him. And he's out there playing well every night. He hasn't
Hmm.
had any games where he looked like he was out of place or no, didn't have the wheels to get it done. So
Right.
I mean, if he knows his body better than anybody else, he's what 40 or 44, 40. I can't even remember how.
44. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he was with Ottawa back in the day. So I just like, damn, that's a long time.
yeah, so defensive rebound for Russell Westbrook, and that is an important statistic because 10 rebounds, 17 assists, 21 points, gives him the triple double. Now stands alone at 182. I just wanted to break in with that. That's an exciting stat.
That's
And
amazing.
it's only a 1-point game right now with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So they're
Which
coming
is a
back
ton
in
of time in basketball.
yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, they just hit a basket, so now it's a 3-point game with just under 7. But I'll stop giving Wizards updates because those are the two big ones.
No.
But it's a big historic moment for Russell Westbrook and NBA history, and I just wanted to at least put that in there, and we'll talk about that more in the NBA section. So let's get into this other Rangers game and like the craziness that started with the fighting to
Yeah.
begin.
Dude, ouch. This game,
It
I had flashbacks to my youth watching hockey when you used to see this all the time. But this was a hell of a game.
this
Go ahead,
was this
go ahead,
like
break it down. I'm starting to smile just thinking.
Yeah, break down the goal scoring, but then we'll also break down the fact that there were 6 fights in the first
Oh,
5
well,
minutes.
and it's so funny because when I usually like get all my information about the games and it's like be like first period, no goals. I was like, yeah, first period, no goals because there was like a ton of fights. So in the second period, though, this is where you get that little TJ Oshie, let's go, coach moments. So he gets his first with a power play goal 12 seconds into the second, assisted by Dylan and TVR. And then about 8 minutes later, he scores with another power play goal, which was his 20th, assisted by Orloff and Backstrom. Nick Dowd gets a tip in at 14:48 to make it 3-0 Caps. And then going into the third period, the Rangers score first. But at 18:20, there we go. Hat trick for TJ Oshie after just losing his father a couple of days prior. Coach Och, I mean, it just all the feels on that one. He gets it with an empty netter. Rangers do score one more time, but the Caps pull off a 4-2 win. And this is where you have penalty minutes for the Capitals 56 and New York 85. But I think the whole, but aside from the fighting, which to me was completely badass, and I was like losing it, and once they dropped the puck, and I was like, "There's like 3 fights. This is awesome." Just the fact that TJ Oshie can come back, just hours after losing his dad and get a hat trick, and how emotional it was, and how fantastic the team surrounded him was awesome. Vitek Vanacek was on fire, and this was a fun, but like I agree with you, Carol. This is old school hockey to watch.
Yeah, it was to see the line the line fight with 1 second as soon as the puck dropped. I was like, because I was actually at work watching on my computer, streaming it, and I saw that I was like, oh, this is going to be very interesting. And the fact they had the fourth line on the ice, I was like, they pretty much knew what it was. And so you had that first first brawl with 3 fights, and then as soon as Wilson hit the ice, Smith of the Rangers decided he wanted to be the guy to, I guess, retribution, and he got his butt whipped.
Yeah, he
It
did.
was, it was hilarious. I mean, Wilson was just like, yeah, he was going to work on like he was coming from where he just came out of a bar and he was drunk. It was crazy how bad he beat that dude. And I mean, but the Rangers felt they had to, make their point. They didn't feel like justice was due, justice was done for Wilson. I get it, but when you're not a physical team, and the Capitals are, it just you got beat on the ice and you got beat with the glove. So it was a interesting ending to the season series because if you recall, it started out with the Rangers dominating with their speed, taking beating the Caps pretty convincingly, and throughout the season, the Caps figured out a way to overcome that, even when they didn't have some of their star players, and people stepped up, and that's what this team has to do in the playoffs and going forward. So we saw it in 2018, and we need to see it now. So also we didn't mention in the news and notes. They said Obi was actually skating today and Backstrom, for the first time with the red jersey on. So he's actually on the first line in the power play unit in practice today. So that's good to finally get Obi back on the ice. Actually looking like he's ready to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could do a browser source to get live scores up on there, but I'm not gonna try to figure that out right now. But the Wizards are not doing so great. I know that
No,
Peter in Twitch chat was curious about the live score. I'll give an update in a few minutes. But my thoughts on this game, uh, I'm so happy for TJ. The embrace at the end with uh,
Backstrom.
Backstrom holding on to him and just seeing the emotion pour out of him, and just the team's ability to sort of set TJ up for such success on that night.
Yeah.
And he said that he needed that as a thing to go through with his brothers. I think it could be huge for team building going forward.
Yeah.
It's such a sad story, but sometimes out of great tragedy can come a bonding experience between players. And so he felt so blessed to be able to share in this experience with them. And they were saying, it's not just his loss, that he was a big part of the team. He was a big part of holding the cup up right after the trophy. He was one
Yep.
of the iconic moments that happened, on all the DVDs and all the videos that you see of that moment.
Absolutely.
That is one of the big moments that happened. And the Capitals players realize that he's a part of their team. All these families are. So but yeah, I was happy that they were able to get that empty netter for him. I'm happy that they were able to win, even with all that was going against them. And they've been playing a lot of these games without players. And we'll talk about it again. Kuzi and Sam are both out, and a lot of injuries, and Ovechkin's out, and who's going to step up? And it would have been great if they could have won the Philadelphia game coming up. But I'm so impressed that they were able to win this game.
I mean,
Agree.
yeah, to speak on the TJ Ocean factors, I didn't really talk about it. It was, it's like with him coming back so soon, I felt like it was going to be his night. Like he was playing hurt, pain, and he was trying to find that peace that only athletes can find when they're doing playing their sport.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like he was going to have a big night. I wasn't expecting a hat trick, which was great. And someone that's lost his dad, I could understand the emotion he was going through when he got the hat trick and sat down and it all came out. So
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, it's like a brotherhood. It could make the team stronger and going forward. And we saw the last game that we're about to get into against Philly, that they were very short-handed, but they still found a way to come out on top. So I think it's definitely going to be something going forward, and also with the pending expansion team. There was some talk at the beginning of the season that they might leave him, open, unprotected. But now, some of the comments of some of the players are saying he's the, soul of this team, and he helps make this team go. Hopefully, that goes
Right.
a long way into, because I think he's a great player in that aspect too. That you see the hustle, you see the grind, you see the want, and you see it from someone like him. It just permeates through the whole lineup, and that's when you see that hustle factor that we saw back in 2018. Like the puck was going their way. You say puck luck, but sometimes it's just out hustling, out angling, out thinking your opponent just a split second quicker. And we saw that with them, and I want to see them get back to that level.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was an emotional game. It was an intense way to end the season series. I definitely did not make any friends with any Rangers fans after that game, because obviously a lot of arguments. One thing that did come out of the rematch, one that we just haven't mentioned yet, is the Mantha Ray got clipped up high, and that was
Oh yeah,
and
that was
yeah,
crazy.
he was offered a fair fight, did not take the fair fight, and then
Yep.
he cross-checked him right in the head, and he got a one-game suspension for that, which people were like, well, he deserves it, blah blah blah. I I also don't like the fact that people were like, Tom Wilson eventually turned it down, or he went back into the
Oh, give
locker
me a
room. I mean,
break.
if he really damaged his hand fighting so many
He had a
times,
cut
like,
on his hand. They showed his hand bleeding from
Mm-hmm.
getting cut from fight. So better to be. I mean, if he'd stayed on ice, who would they have had that would have went at him? He'd have knocked them out too. So
yeah,
he just wanted to get his hand right. Make sure it wasn't
he
nothing
doesn't
bad.
want to get more injured going to the playoffs. We already have so many
Exactly.
injured players, and all they were doing is
Exactly.
fighting when he was on the ice. So it's like, at least it gets it back to a hockey game by taking him out. So I thought that's kind, yeah, that's kind of crazy. And then the other thing was just, you know, they were like excusing like the cross check to the head as in like,
How?
now everything is fair game because they didn't, get Tom Wilson out of the game somehow.
And that's my
That's how
problem with
some folks gonna look at it. I'm
yeah.
more amazed that first of all, he didn't break his nose, and second of all, he was
Yeah.
out there his next shift. I'm like, this dude is tough as a mud. He took a cross
And
to
okay,
the face.
I had another debate today with people that are not satisfied with the Mantha Ray. They were saying, well,
Oh,
look,
please.
Verona has 8 goals on a much worse Detroit team. I'm like, he wasn't doing jack shit for us. Get over it. Like, we need a physical guy to get a
Yeah.
puck down low. And
We're in the East, the toughest division in hockey.
Yep.
You can do that in that division. Now he
yeah,
wasn't doing it in this division, so sometimes the change of scenery is. But look at Andre. Andre's killing it in Colorado.
Yep.
He couldn't do that here. He needed a different scenario. I'm not saying that he didn't have the skill, but sometimes you have to fit where you go. And maybe he didn't feel comfortable. Maybe he didn't fit, and he fits Colorado style better. Rana fits Detroit style, the way what they're trying to play. He had the 4-goal game. Okay, great. He wasn't doing that here consistently. He started out hot, and then teams would pick up on it. We saw him get benched a couple of times for lack of effort on the defensive end, not playing 200 for hockey. And it is what it is. You can woulda, coulda, shoulda all you want and rehash it, but what difference is going to make? You're not
Exactly.
the team. He's still going to be in the team, and Ron is still going to be in Detroit. So
right.
yeah,
And the thing is, like, we couldn't give Verona top line minutes. So if he only could do that on the top line, we already have Ovechkin. Like, it's just not happening. Like,
Yeah.
like he's not playing on our top line. I don't really.
wake up those guys and talk about they shouldn't re-sign Ovechkin and all that. I see that. I look at them like, what is wrong with
Absolutely.
what meth are y'all hitting? Because please put it away because that's asinine crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's ridiculous. Well, and then the Mantha thing, it's like, you come to a new team, you get 4 goals in 4 games, and it's not like all of a sudden he did that and did nothing. He has been there. I feel like he did have kind of like one shitty game, and
yeah, he's
he
not perfect. He's not going to score a goal in every game. And people are like, well, what he gave up? He should be like the next Wayne Gretzky. And I'm like, I read
oh,
that. I'm like,
please.
get the hell out of here with that
I
BS.
mean,
Like,
come on.
yeah,
Like,
like
Just
the
the fact that they
expectations are
would
too
even play
high.
the next Wayne Gretzky. Already, I would have just been like, at this point, it's we consider to continue this conversation. I'm
No,
losing.
I know, but I just
it's
like he
so
can fill a void
stupid.
of what we need, and
Yeah.
Verona couldn't do it. We gave him opportunities, and
Yeah.
it's very easy to be like 8 goals on a worse team. We made the wrong choice. I'm like, I don't think you're fully considering the entire ramifications, and I'll be curious how he does in the playoffs. And yes, he is a streaky player, but he gets points when he needs it. But anyway, let's get into this Philadelphia game because I can definitely go on rants about social media for a while.
Oh yes, I have to excuse myself before I, wind up in jail or something.
Right.
One update: it's still 2-2 in the Boston Islanders game with a minute and 28 left in regulation. So,
Oh
Oh,
wow.
wait, no. The New York Islanders Boston game in mine is 3 minutes left in overtime.
What?
Yeah,
I know my feed can't be that slow. Hold up.
yeah.
That would be my
Yeah, well,
favorite. That would
it
be
might have
that
said
slow.
overtime. I might have missed that. It might have said overtime. I might have missed
Yeah, it's 2:49 and after overtime, tied 2-2. It's 3-on-3. The Wizards hit back-to-back threes to make it close. Atlanta then scored a basket right back. It made it 115 to 119. Atlanta's still up by 4 with 2.5 minutes left. Very, very close game here. The Wizards have the ball. So you're watching me stress over that. And again, if Boston wins this game, it'll finish the Eastern Conference in the standings and where they will all play. If the Islanders win, then it adds some intensity to the next game. But let's why don't you give the Philadelphia scoring update for the bad Philadelphia game, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. So Friday, Caps play Flyers, and each team scored once in the first, including Sprong at 6:19, which was his 13th, assisted by Mantha. Second period, 2 goals by Wade Allison, and at 18:51, Oshie gets a tip in, assisted by Dylan and Eller to give it a 3-2. Third period, only the Flyers score, and unfortunately was just that 4-2 loss for the Caps.
And with that, The Boston just won it. Sorry.
Okay, okay.
Boston, by winning this game now, actually solidifies, I believe, that they will be. Well, it went to overtime, so I have to double check the points, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no matter what, because this is the last game for the Islanders. So with that, then the Islanders ended up with 71, and Boston ends up with 73 with one game remaining. So that means we will play Boston. So this game tomorrow will end up being a tune-up game, but won't matter for seeding. And it means Pittsburgh now plays the Islanders and Trotz. So hopefully Trotz will bring back some of that 2018 magic and beat them.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to break that up, but go back to your
No.
point breakdown.
No. That was perfect because I was wondering if that was going to change the lineup for tomorrow. If Laviolette is going to put Wilson in was one question, and now that Backstrom and Ovechkin are okay, do you put him in tomorrow, knowing that it's just to get him kind of warmed up? And there's all those kind of questions about what he's going to do, but
Yeah, actually, I have some answers to those questions. So let's get through the Philadelphia games, and then I do want to bring that back up because I have an answer for what I think they should do.
sure. You want me to do the Saturday one too?
Well, Carol, do you have any thoughts on the first Philadelphia game, and then I'll give mine.
It was disappointing to know what was on the line, and even though they were shorthanded, weren't able to get it done. Philly, have been playing spoiled. The week before they beat Pittsburgh one night 7-2, and then lost on the next night 7-2. So they were looking to play spoiler, and fortunately, they succeeded. Um, I really don't have too much to say about that game. It was just disappointing to know that they could have, made it interesting going into the last couple of games to try to get that first spot. But like I said, I don't care where they play. They can play good on the road. They can play good at home. They can beat any team in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with not playing the Islanders in round one. I'm not, it's not like first place is going to mean a whole lot. Although one breaking piece of news that we haven't talked about yet is now Capitals will be able to have 25% capacity up from 10% starting this weekend.
Yeah.
So that's a
Cute.
big, I think that could be helpful. Um, it's funny. We talked about Wade Allison last week and how good he is. And of course, he scores 2 out of his 4 goals of the season against us. So we're good at predicting things.
He scored his first goal against us earlier.
Oh, that's true. But I'm saying just in last night alone. So now he scored 3 quarters.
I thought about that. I felt like Craig Locker when he was talking about how did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did talk about that. So I'll just bring that up for just a second. But anyway, TJ Oshie scores his 22nd. Made it a little bit closer, I thought, going into the third, but they just kind of shut us down, and we just didn't. I think it was like an emotional hangover after the last game. I think
absolutely
it's what's called a classic trap game, and I think we fell for it.
I didn't even think about that. That's a valid point.
It's just you have that high, and then you have something to compete for, but it's not do or die. It's like first place is nice, but you'd have to win out, kind of thing.
Right.
And so yeah. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that one. Let's get in that last Philadelphia game.
Sure thing. So Saturday, same. Here we go. Back to back. Caps Flyers. So there's no goals in the first or the second. Third period, Flyers score first at 3:42, followed by Eller scoring his 8th at 19:20 to tie it up 1-1. And we go into overtime. And 4 minutes, Connor Sheary scores his 14th. To give the Caps a 2-1 lead. And that was this is the one game I think of the whole season I haven't seen. I was doing a Mother's Day thing, but yay, golf clap, whatever you want to call it, for Craig Anderson. I love to hear that, how well he did and watching the highlights. So good for him.
Yeah, Carol, were you able to watch much of this game? I'll give my thoughts on it.
I watched this game. I was sort of shut out going into the third, and then Philly got that goal with 3 minutes left. I was a little blown, but when they pulled the goal and with 6-on-5, they actually had a power play 6-on-4, weren't able to score on it. They got a man back, and that's when they actually scored the birthday guy, Lars Eller, actually got the game time goal. And in the overtime, it felt kind of like, I was worried that they wouldn't be able to get it done. I didn't want them to go to the shootout. I wanted them to get it done, you know, at least in the overtime. And with Connor Sherry, his speed is one of the things that I love about him. And his shot, he has a quick release on
Yeah,
his shot. And
absolutely.
I always hated him when he played for Pittsburgh, but like I said about Tom Wilson, when he's on your team, you love him. Play against him, you hate him. And Sherry, I think he has that X factor with his speed. If he can get, get going and get hot in the playoff, I think he can be an X factor for the Capitals going down the road.
Yeah. So this game is so coming down to the wire. It's a 1 point game, less than 30 seconds left in this game now. And I believe we committed a foul, which reset the shot clock. And then there's a timeout. So there's 12 seconds left in the shot clock, 18.2 seconds left in the game clock, and we're down one. So we
Mm.
could hold and have 6 seconds left to try to win it, or who knows what, or do you foul and give yourself a little more time? So anyway, it's a timeout in that game, but it is very close and very nerve-wracking. But to speaking of this, I love these Pittsburgh players that we've been able to get. A farm team for us all.
Yep.
Connor Sherry stepping up. We've got top line Sprong stepping up. On the defensive end, we've got some players stepping up. But just like overall, just and Schultz, as who I was speaking of, but just so many players that were from their system that we've taken on and have played phenomenal for us.
Yep.
And
I love it.
and Connor Sherry, what a beautiful goal. But Lars Eller, just an incredible goal. And that's another one of those plays. Mantha Ray digs it down deep. It's below the goal crease. At that point, it's not even a power play anymore.
Right.
And he digs it out and gets a perfect puck to Lars Eller, right? And Justin Schultz, another one of those Penguins players, has the assist. He's the one who, was working it down low with Anthony Mantha, but just you can't say enough good stuff about him. So for me, it's wow. The Wizards just stole the ball and they have a chance to win it now. 3 seconds left. They shoot it. It goes off the rim and they lose.
Oh no.
Yeah, but it was in Westbrook's hands though. He had an opportunity to win the game.
That's terrible.
And Westbrook did get the game ball because he did get that legendary triple double. Unfortunately, it's a loss. But they had an opportunity there, right? You put it in Westbrook's hands. He's having a phenomenal night. 6 seconds left. It just comes up a little short. We didn't have Bradley Beal again in this game. We lose the game by one. It's a bit of a heartbreaker, but we'll come back and play this team again on Wednesday, and hopefully that'll be fuel for the fire. But anyway, I just wanted to give a little update on that. One last little thing. So I'm happy that the players played well. They were able to come back and get the 2-1. I'm going to go back to what Anna's question was. What do you do about tomorrow now that things are kind of settled? I think you put the best lines in that can play the game tomorrow and give them all a little bit of time because they're probably not going to play again until Saturday, right?
Yeah.
I know that Ovechkin's been hurt, and I know that some other players have been hurt, and I think that you play all your players a little bit of time, but you're okay with playing your fourth line, second line, third line a lot more in that game. And maybe you rest Ovechkin down the stretch in that game, right?
Makes
So he gets
sense.
a little bit of playing time, but doesn't play the whole, does not play 22 minutes unless he's feeling it. I mean, if he's feeling incredible.
I have a better question for you, Rob.
Yeah.
Craig Anderson getting in last game and not having a veteran and two young goaltenders, what do you think the chances of Craig Anderson starts this game? And if he plays well, he might start the playoff for the guy.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I may also do a situation where you play Craig Anderson for the first 40 and then you get double V in for the last 20. So that way he's not playing a week without some play. Do you know what I'm saying? And so you get a little bit of time for both of them. That's my solution, and if, Craig Anderson has a shutout, through two, you obviously let him play it out. But I think you give both of them a little bit of an opportunity potentially in this game because, again, they're probably not playing until. Hold on, I want to check this out because the first game would be at home for them but they have to also compete with a Wizards schedule, right? So they don't get every night available in that arena. And I believe, yes, the Wizards play the Cavaliers on Friday, which would mean that Saturday would probably be the first opportunity for a game. But if they're playing Tuesday, that's a pretty long gap between Tuesday to Saturday.
Yeah.
I would kind of want both of them to maybe see the ice tomorrow. So that way
Well, they
it's
play
not.
Wednesday though, don't they?
No, they play tomorrow.
Do
The
they?
cap the Caps play
Oh, I thought it
tomorrow.
was. Oh, I had Wednesday down for some reason.
Yeah, no, I'm doing a show
Uh,
about it. So
oh
yeah,
yeah, there we go.
yeah,
Sorry. Yep.
yeah, because that's what was interesting about this game, and that's the more interesting question is who does Boston play? They wrapped it up today, right? Are they going to play everybody tomorrow?
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is mental advantage, right? So you kind of almost want to play with different lineups than what you're going to play in game one of the playoffs. So you don't want to show all your cards now
Which I
when you're
think
going to have to
Laviolette is
play.
good at that though. I think that
Exactly.
that's going to work in our favor is that he does mix things up and I and we of course we were forced to with the injuries, but I also think he did it, if you're doing well, I'm going to bump you up, and if you're not, and I think it's good. And I think going back to that Chara Jensen question from like 45 minutes ago or whatever it was,
Yeah, exactly.
it made me think that Jensen was one that I know that I definitely threw under the bus and was like, what's up with this guy? Like, you have the potential, and he was just sucking and whatever. When Chara came in, they paired him up. That was fantastic. Like the two of them just played so well together. But I think the whole shift of, you have Ovi out, and then you have Kuzi and Sammy, and Oshie was out a little bit, and Wilson is like, there was a lot of changes, and I think a lot of emotions, regardless, it wasn't so much on the defensive end, but I think I like those. I like that pairing. So I think they'll bounce back.
Right. Oh, by the way, it's regulation wins is first, regulation overtime wins is second, and total wins is third. Craig
Okay.
fixed himself about 40 minutes ago, but I thought I'd put it in there in case people are listening on the audio and didn't see that. So I thank you. I thank Craig for
Yeah.
correcting himself and letting us know that part of it. So exciting week. So next week we'll recap maybe a little bit of this Boston game, but probably not talk very much about it. And then
Yeah.
we'll talk more about the actual Boston playoff series that'll just be starting. I will do a little bit of a note here. If they play Monday on air, Carol and I have agreed, and we don't play Tuesday, as soon as I back to back, we'll
Right.
probably put the podcast on our Tuesday so we can
Okay.
recap both of the games and not be competing directly with the Capitals
Yep.
on Monday.
Just let me know.
So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, and tomorrow's podcast is going to be live with Carly. That's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern. For us again, Carly is a big Bruins fan, so we'll be
Yeah.
rooting against each other, and we'll do that live on
Cool.
my Twitch channel as well. So if anyone wants to check that out, but Anna, I'm sure you had a very fiery conversation with Gil. If they
I
want,
didn't
oh,
actually. I no, I actually I took the Sunday off.
oh yeah, of course it's Mother's Day.
It
That
was
makes sense.
Mother's Day, and I was hosting my brother, and having a little barbecue, some cocktails, and tacos, and it was a very awesome day. And I told him, I was like, I'm sorry, I just
No, I mean that makes sense. Enjoy Mother's Day.
yeah,
But if people want to still check out Gil's thing, they can
yeah,
click the Power Play Point podcast as part of our podcast button on sportsothp.com. And I'm sure Anna will be on in the near future to talk playoffs with that. So again, hockey talk and next week's podcast is going to possibly be on a Monday or a Tuesday.
yeah.
It's to be determined. Stay tuned to SportsOTHP. Facebook page, facebook.com/sportsothp, or search Sports on the Hill podcast. We'll keep everyone up to date with that. But Anna, thank you for helping us break down the last full week, and we look forward to breaking down the
I
playoffs with
know.
you upcoming.
My pleasure. We'll have a fantastic night, and I will. Yeah, Monday or Tuesday next week. If you guys need me, just let me know.
Yeah, of course.
All
I'll
right.
definitely let you know.
Have a
All
good
right.
night.
And appreciate it as always. I was having some technical difficulties. I had to restart my feed. I lost all of my feeds at the same time.
Oh
Oh
no.
no, I'm so sorry. Well, we're still up, according to my feeds on a couple platforms, so that's good. And we're still recording, so that's always good. But thank you so much, Anna, for coming on. We're gonna bring in Brian Brennan now. We're gonna talk a little bit of baseball here. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing great. Love that Tom Wilson segment. Just absolutely loved
it. I appreciate that.
You know, we had to break it down for the Cats fans, right? I'm glad.
Right.
I'm glad
I know.
I didn't want. I was gonna see if he was gonna come on camera. You know, great.
No, he stuck to his word, Brian.
I'm so over it, guys. All I have to say is I'm completely over this thing, and I appreciate you guys letting me sit it out because I am so over the Tom Wilson thing.
I think your anger is why my feeds went down, Brian.
Sounds good. All right. Well, Carol, help us break down the first couple of games, and then I know that Brian's itching to talk a little bit of Yankees baseball with us, and I will actually come back and talk about that with you. I'm gonna let you guys talk about that first series for a second while I get a drink, but I'll be right back, and then I'll talk a little. I did get to see the 3 games in the Yankees series, so I'm excited to talk about that with you guys.
All right. Well, it was not so good week for the Nats. They went 1-5. If you recall, last week they were in first place with a 500 record, and unfortunately, the Braves and the Yankees had a different plan for the Nats. They went 1-5. They are now currently 13-17, fifth place in the East. They currently have a 3-game series coming up against Philly starting tomorrow. We'll break that down at the end of the segment. But yeah, they were swept by Atlanta for the first time since 2014. So that should give you an idea of, the disappointment of this series, especially with the Nats sitting in first place. You were hoping they would turn the corner and, start to get hot. But unfortunately, Atlanta had another plan in mind. First game was a 6-1 loss. Brian, I need your help pronouncing this guy's name. Yona.
I don't know it either, man. I was just trying to think what it is too. I don't know it, but I don't know it, man. He pitched last night too in the Sunday night game, and I still can't remember what it is.
It's spelled Ynoa.
I think it's Yanoa. Something like that. We'll go with that.
No, because he definitely Yanoa beat the Nets pretty much by itself. Because he hit a grand slam off of Nets bullpen, which was basically the difference. Nats tried to give a late push, but yeah. He went 7 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 run, no earned runs. That one was on an error, I believe. 4 strikeouts and 2 walks. Joe Ross took the loss, going 5 in the third, giving up 5 hits, 2 runs, 3 strikeouts and 1 walk. Trey Turner went 2 for 3. Kyle Schwarber had the RBI, and as I mentioned, they gave up a grand slam to the pitcher. Second game of the series was a 5-3 loss. Max Fried, who was making a return from the IL, earned the victory for the Braves. He went 5 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 run, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. Eric Fetty took the loss. He went 5 innings, giving up 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and 1 walk. And he also gave him a grand slam to Ozuna, which was the difference in the game. Will Smith earned a save for the Braves, which was his 6th. He went 1 inning, giving up no hits, no earned runs. Trey Turner went 1 for 5 with a 2-run home run, and Gomes went 2 for 4 with a solo home run. And the final game of the series, where the Nats were trying to salvage at least one victory, and unfortunately weren't able to do that behind John Lester. They lost 3-2. Drew Smiley earned the victory for the Braves, going 6 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 run, no earned runs, with 1 strikeout and 3 walks. John Lester went 5 innings, giving up 4 hits, 3 earned runs, with 5 strikeouts and 2 walks. Will Smith earned his 7th save on 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, 1 strikeout, and no earned runs. Yan Gomes went 1 for 4 with an RBI single. In this series, to me, it just looked like the Braves just were a step ahead of the Nats, and pretty much offensively, the pitching was okay, but they kept loading the bases. They were walking too many guys in all 3 outings, and Atlanta made them pay for it. Brian mentioned last week, Atlanta was on a 4-game losing streak, and that's on a 4-game winning streak. We were hoping they would have that momentum to, get a little distance in the NL East, but now they're in fifth. Brian, did you get a chance to check out any of this series?
I watched a little bit of the first game where I guess I guess we'll go with that. Hit the grand slam, and that kind of set the tone. I thought this was an interesting series because the Nats actually came in to it in first place, and they after the sweep they came out of it in last place, and that's got to be really frustrating. And it goes to show you that really nobody is running away with the NL East so far this season. Every team so far has been about the same. The Mets are having their own issues. The Phillies are having issues as well. The Braves got off to a bit of a slow start and before this sweep. So the NL East hasn't really hit their stride yet. I still think there's a lot of time for the Nationals, even after the events of this week, to turn it around and have a great season. But yeah, this was a tough sweep at the hand of the Braves to give up 2 grand slams back-to-back days, especially one to the pitcher. And I believe he got a hit last night too in the Sunday night game too. So this guy can hit. So he's a pitcher who can rake. So that's I like seeing that. I hate pitchers hitting, but I like seeing guys who can actually hit. And
Braves. I don't like seeing the Braves.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good point. You got a good point, Carol. Good point. But yeah, tough sweep for sure. I mean, yeah, Atlanta's a division rival. You're gonna be fighting with them all season, so it's tough. But bounce back next time you play them. That's pretty much all I gotta say.
Yeah, you got to. Arun, I see you joined and you got that beautiful dog staring at you in the background. Did you get a chance to watch any of this Braves series, and what did you take away from this unfortunate sweep?
Yeah, you mentioned first sweep of the Nats have had against the Braves since 2014, and I just Googled it. It's Noah, apparently. That's how you pronounce that pitcher who
Arun the names guy.
Yeah, and they walked Freeman to get to him, and that was unfortunate that the pitcher hit a grand slam. And yeah, the Nats, Petty, he didn't come up in that game pretty well. Then even the last game, I guess Trey Turner, he hit his 7th home run, which was nice, but they lost the second game. And the final game was just like, I don't know what happened to the Nats. As you mentioned, they were on a 4-game winning streak. I think the Braves woke up and they're not a team that normally goes on 4-game losing streaks. So I don't think any of us were predicting the Nats to get a sweep or anything, but definitely was pretty disappointing that the Nats got swept themselves.
I must concur, Arun. I was definitely not expecting this sweep by the Braves. I wasn't expecting for us to sweep the Braves, but I was at least expecting to get one victory out the deal. And let's go ahead and get into this next series, because it's almost disappointing as this series, but I'm going to highlight the lone.
I wouldn't say that, Carol. I wouldn't say it was disappointing.
Well, being the fact that they got swept and they only won one against you guys when they had a chance to win 2, it's disappointing. But
yes,
let's talk about the good. The one victory of the week. 11-4 victory over the Baltimore.
I'd argue that we could actually win all 3 of the games, which is even more disappointing. So.
I would too, even from a Yankee perspective. I would agree with that.
Yeah. It's the Braves also, so it always stings a little bit more with the Braves. I used to be a Braves fan. But let's get back to these Yankees. I know Brian is beaming over there, loving that his New York team, was able to come through on his prediction and then winning 2 out of 3. In the first game, the Nationals won 11-4. As I mentioned, Cal Finnegan earned the victory. He went 1 inning, gave up no hits, no earned runs with a strikeout and a walk. And Brian, I'm gonna need your help on this guy's name, Jonathan
Loizaga. They call him Johnny Lasagna.
To make it easy. I knew I heard him calling that. I didn't want to call him that. I was like, that would be wrong. But okay.
No, the fans call him Lasagna.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, because it does kind of look like that. But, he got the loss going 1/3 of an inning, giving up 4 hits, 5 runs, 4 of those earned with the strikeout and a walk. What was it? The 8th inning, the Nationals offense just exploded. It was a tie game, and the Yankees bullpen just didn't get it done. Jonathan Lasagna, as I mentioned, I gave up 4 hits, 5 runs, 4 of those earned. Josh Bell blew things open with a 3-run home run in that 8th. He went 1 for 5. Soto went 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a home run. Kyle Schwarber went 1 for 4 with an RBI single, and Gomes went 1 for 5 with the home run and 2 RBIs also. This was definitely the bright spot of the week. This is the team that we expected to see from the Nationals, and unfortunately, we only saw it one time last week. And going into the second game was an 11 inning extra inning game that I know Brian, he probably liked the extra inning rule in this game because they won. Nationals lost 4-3. Justin Wilson earned the victory for the Yankees. He went one inning, he went no hits, no runs, two strikeouts. Tanner Rainey took the loss for the Nationals. He went no innings, giving up one hit, one run, two walks. Starling Castro had an RBI single, and Trey Turner had a sacrifice fly RBI. And in the last game of the series, Nats were hoping to get at least one. I mean, at least two to try to win the series, but unfortunately couldn't get it done because Brad Hand, yeah, I'll let Brian break that down. He was filling me on some of Brad Hand's problems with the Yankees. But Valdez Chapman earned the victory, going one inning, giving him one hit, no earned runs, one strikeout. Brad Hand took the loss, going the third of an inning, giving up one hit, one earned run with two walks. Kyle Schwarber hit a two-run home run, I believe, in the eighth inning to tie the game. Unfortunately, Brad Hand has issues with closing out the Yankees, and looked like he had issues in this game also. Brian, give us a little back history on Brad Hand that you filled me in on yesterday when we were talking offline, and give your thoughts on this 2 out of 3 that you predicted the Yankees would take from the Nationals.
Well, I'll start with the 2 out of 3. I'm really happy the Yankees took 2 out of 3, and they did it the hard way. They had to come back in that game twice on Saturday. And you mentioned Brad Hand's struggles against the Yankees. Last year, he was on the Cleveland Indians, and he blew a save against the Yankees in the wild card series last year. So the Yankees have a history of coming back against Brad Hand, and they did it again on Saturday. And then on Sunday, they brought him in again, and I was like, I didn't really understand why they were bringing him in after what happened on Saturday. Like, did you not see what happened? Like, I mean, the Yankees, and he immediately walked Tyler Wade on Sunday, who was one of the worst hitters on the Yankees team. And as soon as he did that, I was like, there's no way we're not winning this game right now. It's Brad Hand's in the game. He just walked the worst hitter on the team. So, of course, we're winning this game now. And Stanton got an RBI single to win the game on Sunday. Glaber had the game-winning infield hit on Saturday. The Friday game was awful from my perspective. I know it was great for you guys. Honestly, that eighth inning had me banging my head against the wall. It was so awful. I hated that inning so much. But we got one thing we do have to talk about, though, is how good Scherzer was on Saturday. I mean, he was amazing, and it gets forgotten about because the Nationals didn't win the game. But Scherzer had 14 strikeouts in that game and was really shutting the Yankees down. So it's impressive that they were able to come back against Hand and win that game. And like you said, I do love the extra innings rule a little bit more after that win. I don't hate it as much as I do after that win. But yeah, from my perspective, really happy they won 2 out of 3. Like Robbie said, the Nationals could have won all 3 of these games. And let's get ready for Tim Clark wearing a Yankees hat next week. I'm looking forward to that. He lost the bet to me because of this series, and he'll be wearing a Yankees hat on this show next week.
Yeah, so I can't believe Tim, an Orioles fan.
He's not even a Nationals fan.
I know. It's such a bad bet for Tim. I appreciate trying to get you to wear a Nats hat on our show, but like as an Orioles fan, that's got to like double hurt for him.
I know.
I feel bad for him. So next week on Wizards Talk, as we'll recap the last regular season week, he'll have to do so, at least part of it, in a Yankees hat. So that'll be rough to watch. But overall, I thought that the Nats played great in all 3 games, and it was just very, very frustrating, especially on Mother's Day. I was over watching it with my dad. My dad stepped out of the room, and then that's exactly when the whole fall apart in the end of the game happened. And he grew up a Yankees fan, and I wonder if he just left the room as a way to jinx the Nats, and he's just that way he doesn't be upset about it. He claimed that he was rooting for the Nationals in this game, but the second he left, the Nationals fell apart. So I don't know what happened. I'm definitely bummed, but I know that he said that the sting doesn't hurt as much when the Nats lose to the Yankees. But anyway, so it was frustrating because those were the first 3 games that I'd watched more than a couple innings of in each game. And I was like, oh man, these are all three really exciting, great games, and all of them we had opportunities. And
True that. Well, to piggyback off of what Brian was talking about with Max Scherzer, I forgot to mention this also. He becomes only the fifth pitcher in Major League history with 10 plus strikeout games. He joins Nolan Ryan, Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, and Pedro Martinez as the only five pitchers with ever.
Good company.
Yes, very much so. When you say Nolan Ryan alone, you already know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that. Room, we didn't mean to leave you out. How did you feel about this unfortunate loss to the Yankees in this series?
Yeah, as you guys pointed out, all three games were winnable for the Nationals. Brad Hand, in particular, was pretty bad in the bullpen. He blew 2 save opportunities in one game on Saturday when they also had granted the runner on second base was already there, but the first run was definitely he walked LeMahieu to lead off that inning, and then they went back to him again on Sunday, which was kind of weird. But I thought they actually should have taken him out in the beginning of the ninth inning because he looked pretty off, like walking people and all over the place. But let's talk about that Friday game because it was a nice game for the Nats. Corbin, he actually came out and pitched well. Lasagna did not really pitch well. He had a 0.5 ERA coming into that game, but 3 errors by the Yankees, 1 by Aaron Judge, who hadn't made an error in 2 years. That was pretty good for the Nats. And Stevenson, he pinch run, and then he came all the way back around and got to hit. And then the following, later in the game, Soto hit the home run to cap it off. So it was a nice win for the Nats, but Hand was pretty bad. They had the opportunity, especially on Saturday. I don't think Sunday they didn't have the lead, but yeah, that game, especially they got the 1 run off of Chapman to keep them alive, and Chapman looks pretty much unhittable, but it wasn't enough, and that's just the way it goes, and the Nats are in a hole again.
Yeah, real quickly, just to speak to your point, that inning of baseball was like one of the first big innings I gotten to see this season, and holy cow! I'm sorry, Brian, but that was one of the craziest innings I've ever witnessed. Just watching a team fall apart like that, it was something.
It's all good. We got our revenge the next 2 days. It's all good. It's all good.
I remember in the World Series with the Astros when the Nats were like 12-4 when the floodgates just opened in that one inning. So that's the Nats that we know they can beat. So it's good to see flashes of that now. We just got to get it consistently and get our pitching together. Once Strasburg come back, and Corbin finally figures out what's going on with him, I think they'll be okay. This early season lull, they're only 3.5 games out of first, so it's not really a big deal right now.
Yeah, let's get into this upcoming week because I know that we actually have a boxing segment that's going to be in between our baseball and basketball segments in just a moment. I see we have a special guest on the line. So we got 2 series this upcoming week, one against the Phillies and one against the Diamondbacks. Do you want me to go through the times or do you want to do it, Carol?
No, I just jotted them down real quick. You got the 3-game series versus the Phillies. Got a 7:05 start tomorrow night, 7:05 start Wednesday night, and a 1:05 start on Thursday. And then the Nats travel to Arizona, where they play the Diamondbacks on Friday at 9:40 Eastern Time, Saturday at 8:10 Eastern Time, and Sunday at 4:10 Eastern Time. The Phillies right now, they're pretty much like the Nats trying to find their way. I think Bryce got hit in the face with a pitch last week, and he's doing better. And he reached out to the pitcher because they knew it was an accident, even though a brawl kind of almost broke out after that happened. But division games, the Nats got to win. They just got swept by the Braves, so they definitely got to, get back on the horse in the NL East. So they need to win at least 2 out of 3 versus the Phillies. And Arizona haven't had much time to check them out. But I know Brian and Phyllis said, but I think the Nats should hopefully bounce back from this 1-5 week and hopefully go 4-2 next week. Ryan, what do you say about this upcoming schedule for the Nats?
Yeah, I think you got to win the games against the Phillies, at least 2 out of 3. They're going to be one of the main competitions in the division. And like I said earlier, nobody's really run away with this thing yet. So got to win as many games as you can against divisional opponents. So I say 2 out of 3 against the Phillies. As far as the Diamondbacks go, I actually saw them. I went to a Mets game. I was in New York this past weekend, and I went to a Mets game on Friday against the Diamondbacks. And they had a 4-0 lead in that game, and they blew it and lost 5-4 to the Mets in extra innings. And they went on to get swept by the Mets that weekend. So this weekend. So I think they're kind of struggling a bit. They did not honestly look like a great team when I saw them. I think those are winnable games for the Nationals as well on the West Coast. I think they can win 2. I think they can win 4 games this week against the Phillies and D-backs. I got them winning 4 of those games.
All right, Arun, what do you think about this upcoming week for the Nats?
Yeah, the Phillies, they're also coming off a series loss against the Braves. And I think the Nats played the Phillies tough. They do well against Bryce Harper since he's been there. But right now, the Phillies are up there in the division. So hopefully the Nats take care of business against the Phillies. And then the Diamondbacks, they've lost 6 straight games, including 3 to the Marlins. As Brian mentioned, they were swept by the Mets. So I think the Nats definitely should take that series against the Diamondbacks. I'm going to say they go 4-2, or they have 2 series wins against the Phillies, the Diamondbacks as well.
All right, Robbie, what do you think?
Yeah, so one thing that's interesting is Washington's played less games than most of their other divisional opponents, with the exception, I believe, of the Mets. And so it's been a weird start to the season with all this COVID. And remember, the Nats kind of started a week late because of that. So they're right now, they have the same number of losses as Philadelphia, but 5 less wins. So we got to take advantage of the fact that we're got some of these games in hand, and then you got to beat them. So that way you can kind of flip the standings a little bit, and hopefully, I mean, last week we are talking about a first place team, and this week we're talking about a last place team. But if we can get 4 and hopefully 5 wins this week, it could make a huge. I mean, 5 wins, just to let people know, would put us, at 18-18 and back to 500. So that's kind of what we have to really shoot for if we want to get back into this division.
No doubt, no doubt. It's like I said, it's still early. It's still Soto just got back, and they got to figure things out. He got to get his swing back. He said he got a home run, and last series against the Yankees, he loves New York, so he always has some good performances there. So once he gets back in the lineup and gets his bat going consistently, and hopefully they keep Trey at the leadoff spot, and they might not think about moving Robles down in the lineup because he still hasn't gained the patience at the plate. There was a few times last week in a couple of games where he came up to the plate with men and runners in scoring position, and he either struck out or popped out or even lined out. Line out, I'll take a line out, but when striking out, popping out, he's not being patient, especially when the pitcher is in trouble when the bases are loaded and he's just walked 2 guys. You can't, sometimes it's not always good to go swing at the first pitch. So I think if they get that the top of the lineup, because I missed Adam Eaton out there. I felt like him and Trey was a good 1-2 punch in that top 2 spots, and I think that's one of the things the Nats are missing right now. That spunk, that hustle, that guy that goes out there and puts it all on the field. Not saying Robles doesn't, but you get a different bat at the plate with Eaton than you do with Robles.
Yeah. Well, let's. I'm gonna have Brian and Arun turn off the cameras for just a second. We've got a special guest I've been chatting with. We're gonna get into some boxing talk real quick, and then we'll get back into the Wizards and talk about the triple double king 182, Russell Westbrook, in just a moment. But we'll bring Paul in now, and I'll have Paul and CP3 talk a little bit of boxing real fast, and then we'll get into some basketball after that.
No doubt. Appreciate that, Robbie. And it's been a while. It's been a long while since we had Paul, the boxing guy, on Sports on the Hill podcast. But he hit me up this morning, said he had a lot to talk about. So we got Paul, the boxing guy, on to break some things down. And I got to talk to you offline about some other things, too. I got to process some boxing stuff. But Paul, how's everything going down there in Charlotte? We don't have this picture up there because he hasn't been to the barbershop since the pandemic hit. So if you're wondering why he's not on camera, he's camera shy because he looks like a mix between a werewolf and Yeti right about now. What's going on, Paul?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Good, good.
Loving it as always, man. At DC Sports Other Politics, baby. That's what we do. What we got going on the boxing? I seen you had some interesting posts out there on your IG and on your page talking about some interesting things going on in the boxing world. Fill us in what's been going on since we last had you on.
Well, you know me, man. Hey, but by the way, the Yeti, I might got Yetis to pass. This Jones busted, but but real quick, I always got to throw in 2 quick statements beforehand. One, I like to post every three or so weeks. So y'all still mad about the Westbrook trade and all? Because everybody everybody was trashing it early on. I'm like, y'all still mad? And the other thing is, I got to brag because a whole 2 rounds before, I said the Redskins need to draft De'Ami Brown because I know him because he went to high school with my stepson here in Charlotte. And I'd be damned if that's who they ain't get. So I'm happy about that. But enough about football, man. It's been an active week, yo. Boxing starting to pick back up a little bit. It's been a little while. I mean, I haven't been off for a while because a lot of the fights weren't really, there were some good fights, but not the top-notch blockbusters because they don't want to risk a huge payday on it in front of an empty arena,
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to start off with the obvious, man. Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders yesterday or the day before yesterday? I mean, that was in the packed house in LA. I'm looking at that video scared. Like, I don't know. It's a lot of unmasked faces in that crowd. But I tell you what, though, I did miss the sound of a full crowd roaring when the fight was good. So, people slept on Billy Joe Saunders. I told people, he ain't no punk. And he got great defense, great head movement, southpaw work, great angles. He don't fight like your typical stiff British fighter. And, naturally way bigger. Undefeated, this is the unification bout. Remember, Canelo came up from 147. He didn't won championships from 150 all the way to 175. So I mean, that man is just collecting belts like Pokemon cards. So he took on Billy Joe Saunders, and everybody said, I don't know. Well, I'm a big Canelo fan, and I already know what's going to happen. Canelo's one of those guys like Floyd and like Bernard, where everybody loved to hate him. But, they always think, oh, they're getting handled in the first few rounds. And no, that's only because they're letting you show them what they got, breaking down your patterns. So it was evident from the first round. Everybody knows Canelo's best punch is his right hook. Canelo told his corner that he was going to knock him out in the 7th, 8th, or 9th round. Billy Joe Saunders has never lost. I don't even know if he's ever been knocked down. And Saunders was looking good, man. I mean, he was working his angles, southpaw, landing a lot of good jabs, spinning around, but ultimately, wasn't too much effect because Canelo's that good. But I kept noticing that since Billy Joe Saunders is a southpaw, when he ducks, he tends to duck towards his left, which puts him right in line for that Canelo rear uppercut, that right uppercut. And I'm telling you, I saw it from first round. I said, he going to start eating that uppercut. And lo and behold, crack up. He caught him with it a few good times. 8th round, the bell saved him, but he didn't come out for the bell for the 9th round because his face was broke. And I just want to say, man, like this stuff make me mad, right? Because, I've been, I never got the chance to compete, right? But I've been training with legit trainers, even, trainers that train world champions like Shambe Mitchell. I done learned under some great, great boxing trainers, So I know what I'm talking about when I see this, right? And it's just like, the way this man beat this dude, I don't think people truly understand what it is, that he was able to do. I mean, Saunders ain't no punk, and he's very difficult to figure out. And just me watching it, I'm like, damn, if I could, if I was in his corner, I'd be like, hey, Slim, you're gonna have to stop ducking and keep your hands up. And if you're gonna duck, you need to duck offline because he was right in line for Canelo's punch. And just going back to what I was saying a minute ago about learning about boxing, I was in the fire department, man. I saw dead bodies left and right. I know a lot of people figure speech say I'm prepared to die in the ring or I'm prepared to die on the football field, but ultimately, your life ain't worth entertainment. And it's dangerous entertainment. And I know boxers hate to hear that, but it is entertainment. It's a business. And I hate those we don't play boxing type of guys, right? They get on my nerves because, like, I love to see the Jake Paul fights. But what frustrated me was because Daniel Dubois, another British up-and-coming heavyweight, had the same fracture, orbital bone fracture, whole side of his face caved in. He knew something was wrong, so he took a knee. They called him a quitter. Billy Joe Saunders, ironically, said, "You're a quitter." Well, what happened? His face was broken in the exact same way. His skull was essentially caved in from his cheekbone to his orbital socket, and the cornerman stopped the fight. So I hope he learned a lesson that you can't fight if you got one eye. And ultimately, your life and your career is more important than just other internet trolls saying he's a coward, he quit. Because to them, I asked, was Joe Frazier a coward when he didn't come out to answer the bell against Ali? Or when Roberto Duran said no mas against Sugar Ray? Or when Holyfield stopped against Riddick Bowe? You know, it's just sometimes you got to know when to stop. And I give credit to Billy Joe Saunders in his corner, but you know, Canelo just too much, man. Ain't nobody touching Canelo until he feel like it.
Yeah, so, what else been going in the boxing? I saw something about Floyd Mayweather supposed to be fighting like Jake Paul or one of them Paul boys or something. I'll let you talk about that.
You know what? I know a lot of boxing, you know, purists say they hate it, but here's the funny thing they don't realize, right? Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather made boxing what it is today in terms of everybody expecting big bucks, right? So out of the top 10 highest grossing pay-per-views for boxing in history, right? Every single one of them is Mike Tyson or Floyd Mayweather. But guess who was on number 10? The 10th highest grossing pay-per-view boxing match, Jake Paul. So boxers are hating, but here's the thing, right? They confuse the fact that because he is a famous YouTube personality that he somehow can't be a good boxer too. He's serious with this. He's in the gym every day. He had training with Mayweather. He's training legitimately, you know, so he is a legit, you know, he's young. He ain't fought no big names yet, but it's interesting because he could fight. His brother that's fighting Floyd, look, he's 6'1", 210 pounds. Floyd said, "I ain't fighting you till you get down to 160. So he got to lose 50 pounds in about a month. So, you know, Floyd playing games with him. Mm-hmm. But I like it, man. I mean, to me, you know, everybody says it's bad for the sport. And I always wonder, like, it's a sport. And don't you want to make money? Because when you get these other people bringing attention to the sport, like the Mike Tyson Triller event with Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones, how much money did that make? You know, people want to see it. So it's like, I don't see how it's a bad thing when everybody can benefit by getting paid off of it, especially with them being on your undercard. Because if you a middle of the road boxer that's on pay-per-view, like the Charlos, or even an established fighter that people don't know a lot about, like Errol Spence. I mean, just having one of the Paul brothers on the undercard will skyrocket your pay-per-views. And I don't see why some fighters think that's that it's bad to see these exhibitions and these young celebrities, because I think it's great for the sport. More exposure, more money, and better off the fighters will be.
Yeah, it's I guess it's kind of like the rap game now, where you have YouTube and you have Spotify and all these streaming platforms where they don't go through the rigors of going through the trials and tribulations to get the big bucks. So, I mean, honestly, I ain't really a fan of the Jake Paul dude, but if it make money and folks willing to pay for it, I can't be mad at you. I just hope, Floyd does what he does, and lets him know that boxing, like you said, he's serious with it, but like you said, he hasn't faced anybody real deal. So I just hope that Floyd does his thing, come out on top, that he either has a better respect for it and takes it more seriously, or he gets the hell out because he got his butt beat so bad.
The thing is, I think Floyd is going to toy. I think Floyd is just an exhibition. So, he's going to be toying with him. But Jake Paul, I mean, he's only 21, 22. He's been boxing actually since he was like a teenager. And I mean, when I say he's serious, he is, I watched him fight a few times, and he's legit a serious good fighter and boxer. And the thing is, like, since he's only 3-0, 2-0, of course he's going to fight other nobodies, right? But the good thing about him is, since he has the celebrity behind him, he can fight boxing nobodies who are also famous too in other sports. Like when he fought the UFC guy last in the boxing match, Ben Askren, I think his name was, knocked him cold. But he's every fight he's stepping up his competition. So I'll be interested to see who he fights next. But you know what my dream fight is, y'all? Ocho Cinco is about to step in that boxing ring,
Yeah, so
and I would I would pay to see Chad Ochocinco fight Jake Paul or Logan Paul. Now that'll be a fight. And it's funny because they were on their podcast, but I think that'd be a good fight for Jake Paul fighting the guy who, because Chad actually knows how to box. He trained just like Brandon Marshall. And I pay to see that, man. That'd be interesting.
all right, well, whatever fights we got coming up soon that we can break down. We have our own little boxing segment because I got some other surprises for you that I've been working on also.
Yeah, we got the typical every single year, the Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford non-news. I say it every year. It ain't never going to happen. But we got Joshua fighting Fury coming up in June because Deontay Wilder decided he ain't want no more of that work. It's ironic. Deontay Wilder hired Malik Scott as his trainer. And if you know who Malik Scott is, he's known, they call him Scuba Diver. This man takes dives. He took a dive against Wilder when he knocked him out. He took a dive against Ortiz. So I don't know why you would hire him for your trainer. Dillian White beat Povetkin, so I think Dillian White is trying to get that fight with Wilder now because Wilder's in a bad position. We just had Derek Chisora lose to Joseph Parker. And like I said, man, the big fight coming up. Joshua Fury, that's going to be definitely on that top 10 list of all-time buys, and I assume that's going to be a rematch at minimum, possibly a trilogy, depending on who wins the first two fights. But I'm looking forward to that. I just hope and pray that my man Joshua don't come in all heavy like a bodybuilder like he tends to do and get rocked, because Tyson Fury got those hands, those quick feet, and knows how to set you up perfectly. So Joshua better be ready to be on the move, because Fury is a whole other animal. And I love Joshua.
Yeah, I actually saw some footage of Fury training a couple of weeks ago, and I was scrolling on Instagram, and yeah, he's like he training serious. He ain't playing. So it's going to be definitely interesting to see how that goes. I know you love Joshua, and I know you respect Fury, so I know you can't wait to see that fight. But let the folks know where they can find you at and get some of that great boxing knowledge you've been passing out.
Yes, sir. You can find me on Instagram at pugilist_HQ, PUGILIST_HQ, and also on Instagram at P from Charlotte, the letter P from Charlotte, all one word. And I don't use Twitter much, but I'm on there. Also, P from Charlotte.
All right, bro. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know the Army didn't probably had you tied down and beat down all day. So glad you had a chance to bring some boxing. I'm gonna get with you offline. I met a ex-boxer/trainer that I'm gonna work on us getting a little Zoom call once you get the Yeti beard and haircut and everything taken care of.
It's crazy because I got my wife is a graphic designer and a photographer. I got all the lights, all the cameras, ring light software, backdrops and everything. But until I get rid of this tuft on top of my head, I'm in hiding. I'm in witness protection to my own house.
I actually saw a video of him on his Instagram and I didn't even recognize him. I was like, who the fuck is that convict? And I was like,
who is that?
He hasn't been to the barbershop in over a year. No wonder he looks like that.
I got hang time with no cornrows. It's like people probably like, man, what's your Cash App? You all right?
Yeah, they're gonna think you escaping somewhere, bro. You gotta do something about that, man.
Put a GoFundMe together.
I got some clippers and some trimmers up here, man. I got you, man.
Hey, man, I've been slacking on mine. My clippers and trimmers been in that box. I think I'm just trying to see how far I can take it now. I really don't got no excuse.
Hey, at least you can. Some of us brothers don't have that ability to grow hair no more. So
that's true. That's true. So I'm definitely thankful for what I do got.
No doubt. All right, Paul. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I'm gonna holler back at you. We get coordinated for that next boxing special.
Okay, fellas. Great show as usual. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Peace.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. As always, always a very interesting segment. I always enjoy listening to that. We're gonna get into our Wizards segment. I know he had a great comment about our Westbrook fan, our people that are Westbrook haters. Are they still haters today? I would say no. I mean, I've been pretty impressed. There's some people that still are, but overall, I'm pretty impressed with what I've seen this year. I know we'll bring back our Wizards roundtable. Carol, are you? I was gonna say that ran long. If you want me to end the show tonight, or if you want to do the whole thing, whatever you want to do.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and step back, sit back and listen. I'm gonna turn my camera off and let y'all rock and roll.
Cool. All right, sounds good. I gotta give Brian Brennan. Yeah, he gave props from the beginning. Said that he thought it was a good move, so I'm happy that he is correct. We're bringing back DC's People Champ as well. Thank you for being part of our. We did a post game show on Saturday. That was a lot of fun, and he's been also giving a lot of scoring updates on our Twitch feed as the No Spots Pod, which I really appreciate. True No Spots Pod, rather. As we've been breaking down this 182nd triple double for Russell Westbrook. I thought there was a small chance he could do it this season. I had no idea he could do it with a few games remaining. It's been incredible. We're also going to bring back in our other guests to see. Rune will bring back on his camera as well. I don't know if Tim is joining us tonight. I haven't heard from him.
No, he said he's taking the night off.
That's fine. Perfectly okay. And it's running a little late, so this will make it go a little bit quicker. That way I'll get each one of your takes on all these different games. But we'll do it kind of lightning round. But since Champ, you haven't been on yet, how are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. That game tonight kind of hurt. It was great that Westbrook was able to get to become the king of the triple doubles, but that last shot, I'll talk about it later. But yeah, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I feel the same way. And of course, this is not the first time where I've broken into the hockey segment and try to do a final play. And I should just really quit doing that since now game winning shots are not falling for us. Game shots against us or daggers happen when I do it. So yeah, maybe I should just stop doing that live on air. But that was kind of a rough moment for sure. All right, let's see if I'm gonna share my my screen real fast, and then that way I can put some stats live on here. Let me just share it with this. Then I go over here and go to the Zoom meeting, and I exit, and then that should be perfect. Let me just make sure the OBS looks okay. And we're gonna move that right there. Perfect. All right. So thank you for bearing with me. So let's get into the week that was for the Wizards. So last week on Monday's show, we did a post game for the Pacers game, and that was a very exciting win for the Wizards. So one of the few games where I was able to bring in the fact that we did win a live game on air. If people want to go into that breakdown, they should go into last week's show. To save time, we won 154 to 141, but we break that game in great detail down on last week's podcast, episode 224. So please just go back and check that one out. We're going to skip ahead to the Wednesday, May 5th game. And this game was a little bit brutal. So all the losses in the last couple, like in the last month or so, have been pretty close games. Most of them within 3 points. And this is another one of those games where they had an opportunity to win it and they didn't. The Wizards outscored Milwaukee 37 to 29 in the first, but unfortunately Milwaukee put up 42 points in the second, outscored them 42 to 34. And then in the third, the Milwaukee Bucks continued their rampage, outscoring them 32 to 24. And the Wizards tried to make a game of it. They actually outscored them in the fourth quarter 39 to 32. And again, they got within 1 point of tying and 2 points of winning that game. Westbrook was phenomenal, 29 points, 17 assists, and 12 rebounds. Bradley Beal had 42 points. Another game where he scores over 40, and they lose. I'm going to go to Champ first on this one. Champ, what were some of your thoughts on it?
I said on last week's show, if you go back and listen to it, I said that this was the game that kind of scared me the most because of the fact that the Bucks are one of the best teams in the East. And the fact that they were only able to lose by only 1 point gave me confidence to know that this team is built to be able to go against some of the best teams in the East. And it was tough. I mean, they got out in front early, which was a good thing you want to do against a talented team like this. But then they kind of fell off the wagon before halftime, and then again couldn't pick up the momentum in the third. They had to wait for the fourth quarter to do it, but by then it was too late at that point to get it. But again, to only lose by 1 point to one of the best teams in the East, you can't ask for nothing more than that. And they showed that when they play against teams that are tougher than them or have a better record than them, they play the hardest. And so that's what they did. They played the hardest. And the fact that they only walked away out of Milwaukee, only losing by 1 point, with Beal scoring over 40, another triple double from Westbrook. Um, I can't say that I'm mad at the performance. I'm actually happy for the performance. I'm just sad for the result. That's all I got to say. I was happy for the effort, but the result just wasn't where it should be.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to Brian next, and then I'll get a Runes take after that.
Yeah, this was a great game. I mean, every Wizards game, I mean, that they've played lately has been just phenomenal. Just great basketball games, and this was no different. You mentioned that Beal scored 42 and they still lost, continuing kind of his bad record in games where he scores more than 40 points. And they really, I mean, they almost won this game. I mean, Garrison Matthews almost hit a shot from basically full court that would have won this game. It almost went in. Could you imagine if he had hit that shot? I would have been insane. Like, I think every Wizards fans across the DMV would have had heart attacks across the whole state. But that would have been crazy. But it didn't go in, unfortunately, and it's a 1-point loss. You got to admire their effort in this game. Milwaukee's one of the best teams in the East. To come that close is frustrating, but a great game of basketball, and every game the Wizards have played lately has just been so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's coming from someone who's not a fan of the team, but you know,
I am really enjoying watching this Wizards team. I am.
Yeah, that's exciting. And it's funny. It's in turn, I've liked watching the Knicks when I've gotten a chance to see them play too. So it's been an interesting year, for sure. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this really close game?
Yeah, it was actually a winnable game down the stretch, especially because Giannis fouled out of the game with 2 minutes to go. He committed an offensive foul. The Wizards were down by 1 after a made basket, but Pat Connaughton was left wide open for 3. He hit 2 clutch threes for the Bucks. Westbrook on one play forgot to guard him, and then the second play is already in rhythm, and Westbrook didn't close out fast enough, and unfortunately the Wizards were not able to pull out a win. And Beal with a great 42-point game, but it wasn't enough. He had a nice 3 to put it to 1, but I don't know why the Bucks took a shot in that situation. As Brian mentioned, then Garrison Matthews had a chance to win the game, and it just rimmed out. The Bucks were coming off a game they just beat the Nets 2 times in a row. They didn't have a letdown for most of the game, but they did have foul trouble. Dante DiVincenzo fouled out. Giannis fouled out. So 2 starters and Chris Middleton not playing. I think the Wizards actually should have won this game down the stretch, but it is what it is. It's a loss for the Wizards, and that's the way it turned out.
Yeah, a really great game of basketball, though. It is unfortunate. So, that game, when it was live, I was actually doing this really awesome show with Josh Turk. If people missed it and they go to my YouTube channel, go to sportsothp.com, click on the YouTube link, or also they can click on our podcast button and it'll be there. And I'm also going to put it on the website tomorrow. But it was a great conversation that we had, and it was tough because I was watching them lose that game. I watched the Capitals win that night. It was just like this up and down emotions, and I was breaking down the scoring of it for chat as it was happening, and it was such a close win. It was a close loss rather, and I really thought they were going to find a way to win it. Just a really exciting ending, as you alluded to, with a chance at the half court, and it just kind of almost rims out. I mean, but a great chance at it. I mean, half court shots are not easy. Most people wouldn't even get close. And I thought it was a good half court shot.
That you had last Wednesday was amazing, and that dude is so talented as an artist. Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. He was really cool. I hope people go back and check out that podcast. It was a 2-hour show, but it was really fun to do that. I have another one tomorrow, as I was talking about before, with Carly. I hope people tune in for that as well. She's modding right now in our Twitch chat. The next game is against Toronto, that same team that Josh roots for. And this was a crazy game because this is really important in the standings. So I'm going to flip over to the standings just really fast. But as you can see down here, right now the Raptors are down at 12th. But the Wizards are unfortunately in 10th because the Pacers came back and won that game tonight against Cleveland. But I mean, they need that extra room here. It's not a lot of space with just about 3 or 4 games remaining for a lot of teams in the NBA. So this becomes a really important game to give them a little bit. It could be a two game swing if Toronto is able to win it. The Raptors outscored them by 2 in the first and outscored them by 7 in the second. But the Wizards are able to outscore them by 5 in the third, and then by 4 in the fourth, forcing overtime. And the Wizards outscored them by just 2 points, 16-14 in overtime, to squeak by in a crazy game. 45 points for Bradley Beal, 44 for Russell Westbrook. They almost had 90 points combined. Russell Westbrook also had 17 rebounds, 17 assists, and 13 points. And Bradley Beal had 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 28 points. So just a great game for them. I'm going to go to Champ again first. What are some of your thoughts?
Well, Bill had 28 points and Russ had 13, but he also had 17 boards and 17 assists.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. It was 28 points. It was I was reading the minutes, not the points. You're right. It was Bradley at 28. It was Russell Westbrook at 13. It was a different game I was thinking of where Russ went off. But yeah, anyway, good point.
But no, this was another game where again it was a game you needed to win, especially standings wise. I believe I heard during tonight, either before tonight's game, that as of tonight that the Raptors were out of the running for even the 10th seed at this point. I'm not sure, but this game right here proved to be very pivotal for the Wizards in terms of the standings and being able to at least secure themselves a spot in the play-in bracket, and they had to win this game. They were on the road and coming off a tough loss to Milwaukee. This was a game you needed to win, and that's what they did. Your stars went out and performed. Bradley Beal performed. Russ with another triple double. The triple double team watch is on at this point. Raul Neto went out there and balled out. Rolo went out and balled out. Everybody did what they had to do to win what was a pivotal game in the standings for their chance to be able to say, we're going to the playoffs and going to the play-in game coming up when the season ends.
Yeah, I just did the math real quickly, and if the math is correct, you're right. The Raptors are now out, so it's a battle between the Wizards and Bulls now for the last game. Because let's just see here, how many games does the Raptors have left? They only have 4 games left, and so yeah, we're more than 4 wins above them. So that tells me that it's now a battle between the Bulls and the Wizards. The Bulls still have 4 games left against the Nets, the Raptors, the Nets again, and the Bucks. So those are some tough games. Obviously, not the Raptors one because there's not a lot playing for. So it'll be a tough run for the Bulls to try to take that spot. But I just wanted to take a look at that. Arun, real quickly, what are some of your thoughts on this game and how it affected the seedings going forward?
Well, it's the Tampa Raptors' most successful season in Tampa Bay, apparently, but they still missed the playoffs. Westbrook had a couple of bizarre moments in this game. He did have 17 boards in another assist game, but he left Ben Bleed wide open for 3. He doubled. For some reason, they did a double team on Siakam, left Ben Bleed wide open for 3 to tie the game. And then with the Wizards up 6 and the game seeming out of reach, Westbrook was doubled, threw the ball away, and then for some reason, 10 seconds later, Westbrook was so upset he committed his 6th foul to foul him out of the game, and the Raptors cut the lead, and it was more nail-biting time. Siakam was on fire, 46 points. The Wizards did enough to win against the Raptors team that is doing the opposite of what the Wizards are doing, which is they rested Kyle Lowry and OG Anunoby, 2 of their 3 best players, and just it's still nice for the Wizards to get a win. Beal came up big in overtime, but the players of the game were Raul Neto and Robin Lopez, each with 25 and 24 points. So good games by them. They were the co-MVPs of the game for me.
For sure. Brian, any final thoughts on this game?
Oh, yeah, I love this game. I thought it was a really back and forth game. One thing I said in the group chat was, Pascal Siakam scored 44 points in this game for Toronto. And usually when you get a performance from a player like that, the team that gets that performance usually wins. But no, the Wizards won this game because they got a really great team effort from everyone. Even with not a huge scoring night from Westbrook, he had a triple-double. You mentioned Beal with the 28. And, I mean, Neto, you can't talk enough about what the role players for this team have been doing a really good job lately. I mean, Neto and Captain Hook, Robin Lopez, have just been great. In the Pacers game as well, they were both great. So shout out to them. They were a big part of this win. I thought the Westbrook foul was kind of funny. I thought that was a funny moment. And I'm glad they survived him despite him fouling out. Yeah, great win. A great game. Really fun game. I mean, from my perspective, at least it was fun. I'm sure it wasn't a lot of fun for a lot of Wizards fans, but yeah, a really good game to watch. I loved it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into that next one. This one's really important. Champ and I broke it down, right after the fact. But this was a night of overtimes and extra innings. Obviously, Brian was, I'm sure, happy with all three results, or at least more happy. I was less happy about that Yankees result, but the Wizards, it started off close. They outscored the Pacers by 33-32 in the first, even scoring of 30 points in the second. The Pacers outscored them, scored 39-29 in the third. But then the Wizards were able to flip that around and outscore them 32-23 in the fourth, and outscore them by 1 point in overtime. Bradley Beal put up 50. This is the game where they both put up big numbers, 50, and Russell Westbrook put up 33 for a combined 83. Russell Westbrook also put up 19 rebounds and 15 assists, and just an incredible week for just he's been doing such incredible things. But in the month of May, before tonight's game, he was averaging 26.2 points, 16.4 assists, and 15.6 rebounds. So that's almost like 26, 16, and 16, which is just insane numbers. And the fact that he's one of the top 10 in the league in rebounds right now from the guard position is just kind of unheard of. I'm going to have Brian give his take on some of that, just because from an outsider's perspective, to have such a good rebounder from the guard position.
I mean, what did I say at the start of the season, guys? When you have the opportunity to get a player like Russell Westbrook, you absolutely have to take it. And I'm sure all Wizards fans are happy that they did. You mentioned it, that guards, they're not normally known for getting rebounds, but to average 16 rebounds in a month is insane. I mean, he's absolutely killing it right now. You mentioned that Beal scored 50 points in this game, but it got completely overshadowed by what Westbrook did in this game, in my opinion. I thought Westbrook was phenomenal in this game, and to close it off by hitting those 2 free throws at the end of overtime to give him the lead, and the block was tremendous. I mean, he's just been so good. He's turning into one of the best trades the Wizards franchise has ever made, honestly. You can't say enough about how good Westbrook has been for this team, especially lately. And this was a huge win. You mentioned Indiana. You're fighting with them for playoff positioning in the play-in. So to beat them twice in a week is huge. I have confidence that if the Wizards were to play the Pacers in the play-in, that they would take care of business against them after watching these two games. And I can't say enough about Westbrook. The Beal injury sucks. It's disappointing that he scored 50 points and then ended it by getting hurt. That sucks, and that he missed tonight's game as well. He's probably going to miss Wednesday's game. But Russ put the team on his back in that overtime. He's been great. Can't say I have nothing bad to say about Russell Westbrook. That guy is tremendous.
Champ, I know we did a post game together, but what are your additional thoughts on this game?
Just to expound upon what Brian said, and I said this on our post game that we did, an inside joke. You got the right screen this time. Inside joke. Anyway, but, the smart. This is what shows how Westbrook is such a smart player. And he said this in the post game on NBC Sports Washington. He knew that if he tried to block with his right hand, he would have drew a foul from the 3-point line. And 9 times out of 10, those free throws would have been made, and they would have lost the game. So he smartly went left hand block to make sure his body was out the way, and he called all ball and got absolutely the perfect block to end the game after making 2 clutch free throws to get them into that lead and put them in a position to end the game with a critical defensive stop, which is rare for a team that doesn't play defense. So Westbrook played out of his mind. Beal he ended up missing the last part of the fourth quarter and all of overtime after he suffered a mild hamstring sprain, and that's why he didn't play tonight, or he's not going to play on Wednesday. And it showed before the fourth quarter, like before the end of the fourth quarter, he was at the score table like hunched over in pain, and that's why he ended up sitting out. But he played out of his mind with 50 points. This was a big win for this team, a big clutch win on the road against the team they're fighting for to get into the play. Loved every minute of this game.
I totally agree. Arun, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, Westbrook came up huge with that block as that block was with the left hand was pretty huge. And then the 2 free throws, I don't know why LeVert committed that foul, but props to the refs for calling it down the stretch in that game. Beal with 50. I thought it was pretty unfortunate that he left with an injury, but the Wizards managed to pull through. They without him, I think they really blew out the Pacers in the previous game. The Pacers were back to play a tougher game, and it was closer, especially without Beal in the game in OT. I'm glad Westbrook came through with the block in OT, and I think the Pacers are probably without Malcolm Brogdon, they're probably not even they're definitely not better than the Wizards right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the standings here because it's so close. Again, the Pacers were able to come back and win today, and they edged just ever so slightly over the Wizards, but the Wizards have an additional game in hand, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah.
They have the tiebreaker over the Pacers, too, if there's a tie.
Yeah, so the tiebreaker, and there's 3 games left for the Wizards, and is there only... Wait. There's four games left for the Pacers. I'm confused. Is I wrong on my
The Wizards
math?
have played one more game.
Oh, the Wizards have played one more game, so that's problematic for the Pacers. Okay, so problematic for the Wizards rather. And so the Pacers, we'll have to see how they do down the stretch. They've been 5-5 in their last 10. The Wizards have been 6-4. And so the Pacers again, they've got tough sledding. They got 76ers. They've got Bucks, they got Lakers, and then they've got Raptors. So be interesting to see what they do at the end of their upcoming schedule. So let's get into tonight's game real fast, and then we'll take a look at the week ahead. The Hawks had a 34-32 lead after the first. Then in the second, the Wizards outscored them by 3. And then in the third, the Atlanta Hawks just crushed us, 35-17. But then in the fourth, the Wizards put up 45 points to the Atlanta Hawks 29. But the Hawks were able to, again, win by 1 point. Rui Hachimura had 20. Westbrook had 21 assists and 13 rebounds and 28 points. And he tried to put us on the back. And again, got that record of 182 triple doubles. So just some interesting play. Bogdanovich had 25 for them. Trae Young had 36, and John Collins had 28 for them. Champ, what are some of your thoughts on this unfortunate loss?
I said it in our group chat after the buzzer sounded. I really wish that Westbrook didn't take that shot. And this is why I said that. I didn't say it in the group chat because I wanted to wait till here. This is why I say I wish Westbrook didn't take that shot. Because their strong suit, this team, the Wizards, is points in the paint. And I'm pretty sure the court vision that Westbrook has, he could have found somebody in the paint and they could have got a much more high percentage shot to win this game. They only needed a 2-pointer to win this game. They didn't need a 3. So when he took that shot and it missed, I said, why would you take that shot when you have the court vision that you have? You could have found Rui or somebody in the paint, and they could have made that 2-pointer, and you walk out of there 126, 125. So I just wish that they didn't take that shot. But congratulations to Westbrook for now becoming the all-time leader in career triple doubles at 182. A fantastic accomplishment. He's going to finish the season averaging a triple double yet again. Unfortunately, he probably won't be in the running for MVP because his team's record is not that good, so he probably won't even be considered until he should, in my opinion. And lastly, Brian, I'm so sorry we couldn't beat the Hawks for you on this night to help the Knicks. I'm so sorry we couldn't do it. Hopefully we can do it on Wednesday, but I'm so
Appreciate
sorry.
that. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, so it's frustrating because I see what you're saying. I do think that I would have rather them get a higher percentage shot, but on his legendary night, you think maybe he wins it. So like I could see it both ways for sure. It is disappointing for a whole lot of reasons, just because he hates to lose on a historic night. I'm gonna ask Arun this question. I don't know if I'll know the answer. He's now won more than lost in the triple double games, right? I know for a while he was losing triple double games more often than he was winning them, but I believe that stat has changed. Do you know?
I am not sure, but I believe that's probably the case.
Yeah, I think that he's now, maybe because of the last couple of weeks, is winning more. But it's interesting. It's hovering right around 500 though, and it's not like it's frustrating because that was the thing I was really frustrated with at the beginning of the season. We were losing a lot of his triple double games, and I was like, oh, is he just doing it for the stats? And I don't think he is anymore. But you'd hope that on such a big night for him. It sucks that he had to like go and get the game ball after a loss. Like it's just, I don't know. I found that very frustrating to watch for sure. Let's Brian, what are some of your thoughts on this one?
Another great game, a good comeback effort by the Wizards. Going back to what Champ said about Russell Westbrook taking the shot, I'm kind of indifferent with it because I think back to another historic night in Russell Westbrook's career when he clinched averaging a triple-double in his MVP season. He hit a buzzer beater 3 in that game in Denver to win that game when he was on the Thunder. So I don't know if maybe he was thinking, I want to end this historic night the same way I ended that historic night. Maybe that was going into his mind. But I agree that actually I feel like if he had driven to the lane a little bit more, that is what the Wizards are good at. Maybe not finding one of his teammates, maybe just going himself, honestly. I mean, he's so good at that. So I agree the shot selection could have been better, but they did have a nice comeback. I mean, it's incredible that he now has 182 career triple doubles, and he's just going to keep adding to it. I mean, we'll see if anybody ever gets that record, but it's very impressive. And congratulations to him. And I don't really have. I'm kind of indifferent on the shot. Could have gone either way on it.
Right. It's interesting. He makes triple doubles look so easy, but I think I was looking at the stats and the current leaders. LeBron doesn't even have 100 of them. So it's just like
he has 99.
Yeah, he's 99. So, but he has almost twice as many. Like it's just, that's such a mind-boggling thing when I looked at it. Like I was like, holy cow. And it's just such an interesting era. We were looking at stats earlier as a group chat, and we were looking at Steph Curry, how he's only like 83s away, and like he played so many less games, and from the record for Ray Allen and 3-pointers. And it's just such an interesting era to live in, and these records they're being blown away, and I just don't know in the future whether or not we will still see it again, because again it's really hard to rebound from the guard position, and it's really hard to get assists from the forward position. So it's just like, to see what he's doing, it's pretty incredible. Arun, your take on A, this historic night, and then B, on this unfortunate loss.
Yeah, it's great for Westbrook to get the triple double record. I think what I also thought was impressive, he tied for second for having 15 assists or more in 5 straight games, the second all time. So that's also cool. So maybe he's on the verge of breaking more records. He had 21 assists. But I tend to agree with Ken. I had a problem with the last shot. I think the problem, of course, was that they were doing offense, defense. So I think Brooks should have called the timeout to put Bertans back in the game. I guess Westbrook took the shot that was available because the Hawks were smart to put 2 men in the paint. So Westbrook took the 3, but he is only a 31% 3-point shooter. He's one of the worst 3-point shooters of all time. He has been clutch, but that's when he goes to the basket and he's at the free throw line. He did have that game winner against the Nets. But that was they needed a 3, and it was like 2 seconds, so that was different. This was, they had 6.5 seconds. They could call timeout. They could have drawn up a play. spread the floor, get Westbrook into the paint, and with Bertan spreading the floor. But it is what it is. I don't have really a problem with Westbrook per se taking the shot. I have a problem with Scott Brooks not calling a timeout, putting his players in a better position to win.
I agree with that because it almost looked like Westbrook knowing time and possession and the fact that they didn't take a timeout, took a shot knowing that if he missed it, maybe there was a chance at a rebound and a putback, right? It was like, because he shot it with 2 or 3 seconds left. It wasn't like he waited and then shot it at the buzzer. But I also think that threw off his timing a little bit, being a bit hesitant, like trying to go early so that we could get a rebound shot, but not doing it at the buzzer, like the 2-second one you were talking about. So I do agree. I think that they should have called a timeout. I understand maybe wanting to go with the flow and maybe catch them napping, but it's tough. I think Arun, you make a good point with the players we had on the floor. So
Everybody in the gym knew that Russ was going to take that shot. That's that problem I have. That's why I said he shouldn't have taken the shot, because everybody knew he was going to do it.
yeah, I can see that too. All right, let's I know that we've gone over a little bit on time, but we had a great boxing segment. So I'm just going to give the 3 times. One is still to be determined. Just real quickly, the first game is going to be the rematch, the Hawks at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Then on Friday they play the Cavaliers at 7, and then they play the Hornets on Sunday, and that game is to be determined on the time front. Some interesting matchups. I actually think that looking at the last couple of games compared to some of the other teams that are fighting for this playoff position, they've got a big opportunity here. They could beat Cavaliers. I think they could beat the Hornets. I think they could even beat the Hawks in a rematch. I'm going to let each one of you guys pick one of those games, just for timing purposes, to talk about. I'm actually going to let Brian go first on this one. I'll be interested to see. I think he's going to pick the rematch, but I'm curious which one he wants to talk about.
Yeah, I am going to pick the Hawks rematch just because I'm a Knicks fan and I need the Hawks to lose too, because we're fighting with them for playoff seeding right now. So hoping that the Knicks or the Wizards can win this game and help the Knicks out a little bit. I think all 3 of these games are winnable. I've been, like I've said, I've been really impressed with this team lately. They're playing their best basketball this season. I think all 3 of these games are definitely winnable, and I think they will beat the Hawks on Wednesday. I think they'll win the rematch.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to go to Champ. You're going to get next. Do you want the Hornets or the Cavaliers?
I'm going with the Cavs because they've already proven they can beat the Cavs. They've beaten the Cavs before. And it's recent. So this is another, I feel like all 3 of these games they're going to win because they need to win out in order to guarantee themselves a spot in the play-in, but also guarantee themselves a chance to be able to be in double elimination instead of single elimination. And going off of what Brian is saying, with them beating the Hawks, I think they then beat the Cavs to really put themselves in position where Indiana is not going to be a threat because of the tie break and everything like that. And they're just going to do what they do with the Cavs. The Cavs aren't as talented as they used to be. They don't have what it takes. You most likely will have Bradley Beal back. So you're going to have another scoring weapon on the floor. I go with the Wizards to win this one all the way.
All right, so that leaves the last game, the Hornets game, and a time to be determined on Sunday, but does mean that we will recap the regular season next week on the show. Again, if you are late to the show or did not hear in the hockey segment, if there is a live hockey game on Monday, we will move the podcast to Tuesday to try to not compete with the hockey playoffs. So the time of the podcast is to be determined for next week. It's probably Monday, unless there's a hockey game, then it would be Tuesday. Unless there's 2 games in a row, then we're gonna have to figure that out. But the Hornet game, Arun, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, this game could be big depending on how the Wizards, if they beat the Hawks, that's a big game because the Hornets have the 8th seed, and that means the Wizards in the play-in tournament would only have to win 1 game to make the playoffs, and they would potentially play the Celtics, who just lost Jaylen Brown for the season, if that was the case. But it could be tough against the Hawks because the Wizards right now are 1-9 without Bradley Beal and 2-16 in the last 18 games without Beal. So this it is a winnable game, but I think the Hawks on offense have been pretty much unstoppable, and most of that run was made with Trae Young on the bench, and they did nothing really to slow him down the stretch. Now Bertans can get hot from three, and Westbrook is a little bit better. I thought he was great. I don't know if he can be. He had 21 assists and he hit 3 of 7 from three, even though he missed that game-winning three. So I don't know. We'll see. So the Wizards need to win out, and that Hornets game will be important for the Wizards to get the eighth seed, and that would mean they'd only need one game in the play-in tournament to win.
Yeah, so basically the Wizards, as they rack up potential wins during this week, could definitely rise up in the ranks here. Again, the Hornets will play the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Knicks, and the Wizards. So it's going to be a tough bunch of games for them. And the Wizards have an opportunity. They're only just about a game and a half back of the Hornets. So there's definitely an opportunity there for them to climb all the way to the 8th seed. So it'll be interesting. They also, if they lose all of them and the Bulls win everything, there's a chance that they could fall out of this completely. So they could have a great week and put themselves in a great position and be in 8th place if all the other cards fall with them, or they could find themselves out of the playoffs if they have a really terrible week. So a lot's going to be riding on this upcoming week, and I thank you guys for helping us break it down. I'm going to let Arun give his final thoughts before we let him go. And yeah.
Yeah, I was randomly listening to sports talk radio, and they said they had no problem. It was like I don't know, it was like a podcast, and they said they had no problem with Westbrook saying that he was the best player in the NBA, but they managed to bring up RG3, and they said they had a problem with RG3 one time saying he was the best quarterback in the league, but they had no problem Westbrook believing that he was like the best player in the NBA because he has that much confidence. And congrats to Westbrook for breaking the triple double record, breaking Oscar Robertson's record in every game. He'll have a chance to break a record, and this record will probably stand for a long time. It's 47 years that this record has stood, and congrats for Westbrook for breaking it.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for helping us break it down, and we'll break down the last week of the regular season and this playoff play-in, whatever situation that we're in. Or maybe it'll, if the podcast happens on Tuesday, maybe it'll be during it. So I don't know when the first couple of play-in games are going to be yet. But it's probably going to be pretty early next week. So a lot to break down, of course, with you guys next week. But Arun, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we're gonna go to Champ next. Let people know what they have going on at the No Spots podcast this week.
Yes, we have Wrestle Chat Wednesday coming up on Wednesday. Topics to be determined. I know one of them is going to be about how independent wrestling, the smaller wrestling promotions, are the backbone of the professional wrestling industry. The other one is to be determined. And of course, on Saturday for the podcast itself, we will be doing a preview of WrestleMania Backlash for WWE. So we'll be talking about that. I'm hope, and everybody can go to True No Spots Pod on Twitch. Towards the end, there was a touching tribute that Seth gave to our fallen leader, Black GOP, on the 2-year anniversary of his passing. Unfortunately, I was not able to chime in on that because I lost power at the end, but it is what it is. So make sure you check us out, twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod this Wednesday and this Saturday.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out right now on our Twitch channel to yours as well, so people can go follow you over there. Champ, thanks again for doing the post game this week with me and doing this. And definitely, it is a tough time, for our network. I do want to say rest in peace, to our founder, Black GOP. He's the one who brought us all together. Without him, a lot of us would never have started a podcast. And I remember Brian becoming a friend early on because he was on my podcast and I was on his. So, a lot of, all these friendships with all three of you guys have grown, from a vision that he helped us see within ourselves. I know Carol will have a few more moments to talk about at the end of the show. But I really appreciate it, Champ. We're trying to live on that legacy, and much love to you, and thank you again for all of your help with modding and being a part of my Twitch channel as well. and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. You guys take care.
Chance, take it easy, man.
All right, Brian, I know that you had a busy episode both last week and you had one that dropped, I believe, today. Let people know all the latest things on the Upon Further Review podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, so I released a new episode today. It's a pretty good episode. I talk about my experience. I went to a Mets game on Friday, which I don't normally do. So I talked about my experience going to Citi Field and how that was like, what that was like, and it was a great time. I talked about the Yankees, the Knicks, the Rangers a little bit as well, and some big national stories as well. I had a great time. I really enjoyed the episode I released today. So I hope everybody go check it out. It's episode 46 of Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan, and another new episode coming your way on Friday. So stay tuned for all that. DC United, tough loss for them this weekend to Columbus Crew. They lost 3-1.
Two own goals, right?
Yeah, bad loss.
That's a difference again.
I think own goals is leading the team in goals at this point. Honestly, it's been a rough start for DC United, but we'll see how they do the rest of the year. Unfortunately, I didn't see their game this weekend, but I'm hoping to check out their one whenever it is. It's on Thursday. They're playing on Thursday against the Chicago Fire. So I'll keep an eye on that one for sure. And thanks for having me on, guys. I had a great time.
Yes, thank you, Brian. Thank you for being a good sport with all of the Rangers talk earlier.
Yeah.
And
it's all love. I just want to say it's all love at the end of the day. You guys have your opinion on it. I have mine, and but it's at the end of the day, you guys are still the best, and I'm glad to be friends with you guys and glad to be on your show.
All right. Well, I appreciate that so much, and we look forward to breaking down the playoffs with the Wizards, and of course continue our Nats talk next week as well. Congrats again on the Yankees. Unfortunately, we'll have to watch Tim with a Yankees.
Unfortunately, I can't wait.
Exactly. So we'll let that happen next week on Wizards Talk. But we hope that you have a good week.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
All righty. All right. Well, Carol, I've gotten a little opportunity to speak on our founder, and it's crazy. It's been 2 years already. It's kind of hard to believe. But we do this in his honor. As a big part of it. It's he believed in a vision. We were just sports talk. We were just guests on shows to start, and then broke off and started this podcast, and here we are 225 episodes later, 6th season in. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in, live on Twitch and on Twitter and a million platforms and podcasts. And he believed in us and he gave us this opportunity. But speak on him and any other final thoughts that you have.
Yeah, he was very instrumental in linking us all up together. They put the nugget in my mind of doing the podcast, and he was a great business mind. He was a great mentor, great leader, and think about it, I miss him every day. But without him, there would be no Sports on the Hill, no Sports on the Apparel, none of the other businesses that I have that I learned through working with him. He brought us together, and we branched out and started me and Robbie back in 5 years ago. Just me and him, man. We have a team of over 14 or 15 that all have the same vision, the same dream, So we're pursuing things, making things bigger and better, trying to, make his legacy come true. We have some things going on at the bar radio that I'm working with on Sundays. We got some moves coming up. This we didn't work on last night. It won't be on the next week. 151 is going to Atlanta with one of our other business partners to take some pictures for a comedy tour. I'm also working on some things on that tour also. So be on the lookout. We're not just about, podcasting. We're also a full multimedia operation. That's the dream that GOP had, and that's the vision that myself and 151 is putting together. We can do movies, we can do videos, we can do commercials. We can do any and everything. And we're going to use that and branch out and just be on the lookout, because you never know what we're going to pop up at. So he had a great vision. We had a great bond. I'm upset that I only got to know him for 3 years of my life. He had so much more knowledge to give, but he had the vision, he had the thought, and he instilled some of that in me, and that's what we're carrying on. True Radio Network. We know we don't shout it out as we used to because there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but we always gonna be True Radio Network till we die because that's what brought us all together. Um, appreciate y'all tuning in as always. DC Sports Out of Politics. We brought this out, because there needed to be a change in the DC sports media market. Some folks see it, some folks hear it, but pretty soon everybody gonna know about it. So stay tuned. We got a lot of things in the works, and we're growing, expanding, we're making moves, and making things happen. As always, going to end the show with independent music because that's what we're doing at the Bar Radio. Always go check them out on our playlist on At the Bar Radio Podcast. You can go subscribe on YouTube, or you can subscribe on my channel, Carol Porter the Third. That's with 3 eyes on YouTube because, as I mentioned, we're making some moves that possibly moving away from Facebook. So be on the lookout. Nothing's determined yet, but we're in talks on some other things. So appreciate y'all tuning in as always. DC Sports Without the Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. Sports on the Hill Podcast. We'll catch you next week. And we out.